What is going on, guys? The Xbox 2 podcast is live after being off air for a week since one of my co-hosts, Jez Corden, was at E3. So, how's everybody doing? I'm Randall Thor 19, and with me, as always, weary from his travels to Los Angeles, one and only Jez Corden. What is going on, buddy?
Hey, pal. I'm good. I got some Fanta, and it's cold, and it's nice. That is good Fanta. But it's very warm here. How warm is it there?
It's actually been pretty decent here in Chicago. It's the temperature. I mean, what was it? June 20th. Normally, it's really hot, but for the most part, it's been pleasant. Right now, it's a balmy 65 degrees Fahrenheit, of course. I mean, I don't know what that is in Celsius. Yeah, but it's been pretty good. Normally, this time of the year, it's like in the 80s, 85s, 90s. But yeah, it's been pretty nice here in Chicago.
It's 64F where I am.
64F.
But it doesn't feel that way. It feels way hotter. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. How about that? Just crazy, man.
You are crazy. You definitely are.
I'm trying to angle the fan so it doesn't blow on the mic. So if there's fan noise, someone moan in chat and I'll try and fix it. But I missed you too, pal.
I missed you in the podcast last week. You were off busy, being an influencer and rubbing elbows with all the big wigs over at E3. I was all by myself.
Hanging out with Keanu, hanging out with Jack Black. I got invited to a party where Snoop Dogg was DJing.
No way, really?
Seriously. But I declined.
You declined. All right.
I had work to do, man.
Well, thank you, everybody in chat, for being here. Saji with the super chat already. He says, here's some lunch money. Buy some better food or more chicken nuggets. Jez loves his chicken nuggets. He was scarfing them down before the show started. He's like, give me these nuggets. I mean, hey, I love chicken nuggets as well. So thanks for everybody for being out here. I see we got Reclaimer and Snatcher, Hunter, Meds, Carl Freemerman, whole bunch of people out here already. 176 of you joining live when we just started. I really appreciate that. So as everybody kind of files in, hit the like button, share this out because YouTube does a terrible job of it. Jez, how have you been, buddy? I mean, I know we normally talk. Me and Jez normally talk every day through DMs, although we don't speak to each other. But we always kind of chat to each other. How's the last couple of weeks been, man?
Kind of like I'm kind of chill now. Like the run up to E3 is just pure stress. All the planning, all the travel plans you have to do. Like we screwed up the hotels, we screwed up the flights, everything had to be rebooked, and all the work, the meetings, back-to-back meetings. I booked way too many meetings and like running around like a crazy person. And I'm not the most healthy guy in the world. So got a lot of exercise done last week. The first day of E3, I walked 7 kilometers, which is a lot for me. So that was fun. Kind of, but now it's all done, and I can breathe a sigh of relief.
Until next year.
Until next year, yeah.
I gotta go. I gotta make it out there for 2020.
You have to, man, because that's going to be the big Scarlet year. So you've got to come next year.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a big year.
It's going to be a big year.
It has to be. I gotta go this year. It really a lot of people I've talked to thought it was the worst E3. I know you liked it a lot.
Kind
of.
It took something at E3 to make me like E3, but most people weren't in attendance at E3, so they wouldn't have had that experience. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. I get the disappointments, but we're going to go into that round. We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Well, yeah. The topics for the show, since me and Jess haven't had a podcast since, before E3, we're going to go over the show, give our thoughts about how Microsoft did, talk about maybe some of our disappointments and some of our likes about the show. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Project Scarlett, how that kind of is going up against the PlayStation 5 head to head. What happened to Xbox Lockhart, Jez? Where'd it go? Is
Where'd
it
it
gone?
go?
Where did
Where'd it
Lockhart go?
go?
Phil said multiple consoles at E3 2018. Now there's just only one, supposedly.
It got locked away.
Where'd it go?
Get it? Lockhart, locked away.
Yeah, this could actually be better. This could actually just be better. One SKU, one marketing message.
Yep.
Even though it may be a little more expensive, we'll talk about that. Backwards compatibility. It's over, Jazz. It's done. No more.
Rip.
Back and
No
pat.
Max Payne. No Max Payne. That makes me sad.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Microsoft's release strategy going forward for the future. They bought another studio at E3 to add to their growing list, which I think they have how many now? 15, 14?
I don't know.
They have 13, which one of that included the Global Publishing Group, which it's a studio, but not in the studio in the traditional sense. They added Double Fine, but they also added an Age of Empires studio, which doesn't even have a name, doesn't even have a logo. It's just Age of Empires, which I'm assuming they'll get a name eventually. So they added 2, so that'd be 15. So they have 16 now. So it's 12 plus 2, 15. 15 with the Global Publishing Group.
Yeah. What about the Age of Empires studio?
Well, that would be because if they had 13 before, and then they added 2. So yeah, so
mathematics.
Math. How does it work? It's amazing. So we'll talk about all that stuff, how the future of Xbox looks. But as always, first things first, games. Most important thing about all this is video games. Jez has played a lot. So you'll say a game that you played, then I'll give a game that I played recently, and then we'll just go back and forth. Because Jez, you were at E3, you were playing all the hotness.
I was playing all the hotness, baby.
We'll go in this what is it, ascending or descending order. Give me your favorite game that you got to experience at E3 that you played. Your number one.
Minecraft Dungeons.
Really?
Baby.
Minecraft Dungeons, huh?
Yep. I mean, I didn't get to play Cyberpunk. I just got to watch Cyberpunk. But I actually got to play Minecraft Dungeons. I was one of the few people that actually got to play because they did like these group BCD sessions. I just so happened to sit really close to the developer, and he was like, "Does anyone want to go?" And I was like, "Me, I want to go." And I didn't let go of the controller for half an hour. I didn't let any other journalists play. I was totally selfish, and I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry because Minecraft Dungeons is freaking awesome. It's really, really good. Like, if you like Diablo, you're just going to love Minecraft Dungeons because it just has that solid action RPG feel that I don't think Path of Exile is nailed on Xbox. And I don't think games like Warhammer Chaos Bane is nailed on Xbox. Like, everything, like, after you play Diablo 3, every game like that just feels a little bit janky. Like, there's something about it. Like, Path of Exile is really deep, and it has really deep customization and a really rich end game and stuff like that. But it just feels a bit janky. And I know they've just updated the melee combat before any Path of Exile fans get mad at me. And I haven't tried that out. Maybe it's a little bit better. But Minecraft Dungeons is built on the Unreal Engine. It has all the proper physics and a gorgeous HDR lighting. And they've nailed it, man. They've absolutely nailed the combat. So, I'm really excited about Minecraft Dungeons. And out of everything I played, honestly, that's the game that I keep thinking about.
Awesome.
I keep thinking about Minecraft. And I'm a big fan of Diablo, and I like Minecraft.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Diablo. You love Minecraft.
There's no building. There's no building at all in Minecraft Dungeons. It's
that's cool.
Purely combat, loot focused. There's no building or crafting. You just like kill things, like hundreds of things with a big sword.
I mean, Minecraft's not my thing, although I do really enjoy Diablo. So we'll see. I mean, I'll probably play the game when it comes out. It is pretty much available on every device, right? It's on
Yeah,
Xbox, it's gonna be
Switch.
on PlayStation, it's
Yeah,
on Switch, it's on PC. It's also really cheap, right? Isn't it
it's
like
gonna
a
be
$20?
Twenty
Yeah.
dollars. It's gonna have it's $20 or $30 with the mini season pass. So like the way they're gonna do it is like it's not gonna have any loot crates or accelerators or pay to win or anything like that. What they're gonna do is they're just gonna release little DLCs here and there. And so like the hero edition's $30 and it gets you 2 DLC packs and a mini season pass. And like there's no like super complicated story in the game. Just kind of light like Minecraft, and it just like go here and there's a necromancer kidnapping villagers, or we need you to find this artifact and stuff like that. Like there's like a central encampment, and you choose your missions where you want to go and stuff like that. And the missions are sort of inspired by Minecraft biomes, so there'll be like an icy sort of dungeon and like a desert temple. I played a lot in the desert temple biome, which is full of all like the sand zombies and stuff like that. And but yeah, it was just awesome, you know. So there was that. But Rand, I want to hear a game that you've been playing this week.
So I actually played. This was announced at E3, but I actually spent some quality time with Forza Lego,
Forza Lego, how was
the
that?
Lego expansion. It's actually it's good. It's quite good. I didn't know how if I would really like the Lego aesthetic, because I've played a bunch of like Lego games. I played, the Star Wars, the Jurassic Parks, the Lord of the Rings and Hobbits, the back on the 360 and early Xbox One stuff. So I was like, okay, how's this really going to look? How's it going to play? But I was actually surprised by the map size and how that looked. However, I think I'm at the point with Forza Horizon where I'm just at my limit with the game. I kind of was feeling that originally with the launch of Forza Horizon 4, as great as the game is. I just, it's tough to really put into words, but I'm kind of getting bored by it, I guess.
Oh, really?
I mean, Forza Horizon 3 is great, and Blizzard Mountain and Hot Wheels are amazing. And then Forza Horizon 4 comes in, and it's basically the same game, just on a different map, which really, it doesn't really change much. And Fortune Island, I don't think is good as Blizzard Mountain. And the Lego thing, as good as it is, I don't think it's as good as Hot Wheels. I think Hot Wheels was much better. I'm really hoping the break, because since there's no Forza Motorsport this year, which means, Forza Motorsport's probably next year or under the year after that, the extra time they can actually kind of make Forza Horizon feel fresher. Like Snatcher says in chat, I understand, Rand, the series feels fatigued to me as well. I mean, that's just the truth. Like I played it, I think I played the Horizon, or the Lego thing for like 6 hours, and I'm just like, yeah, like I've played so much of Horizon 3 and 4 the last couple years. I mean, we're talking like probably 300 hours worth. And it's just
See, I was fatigued with the racing genre after playing Destruction Derby 2 on the PlayStation 1.
yeah. And it's just it's really great. People will love it. Kids will especially love it. I know like people I was playing with in party, they love it. It's really cute. I mean, it is just a checklist of things to do to get the bricks and stuff. I would say one of the big downsides is there's only three Lego cars. There's only 3 Lego cars.
There's only 3
There's
Lego
only
cars?
3 Lego cars.
What's
I
the
mean,
point?
they let you use like the regular cars, from the main game. But there's only actual 3 Lego cars, and I liked using the Lego cars, but it was like you get the Lego Sienna, you get a Ferrari F40, and you get like a Lego Mini, and that's it. It's like there's only 3 of them. It's like, oh, that's kind of lame. But as far as the racing, go, I mean, Forza Horizon's the king. I don't care what anybody says. People can bring up Gran Turismo, and I'll be like, I don't think so. Forza Horizon's the king of the racing genre. I'm just at that point now where it's like, hopefully they do something a little bit different in 5, or they take a little bit longer. They add maybe something that people want. I don't really know, but That's kind of what I've mainly been playing. But what about you? What's the second best game you got to play at E3?
Second best game I got to play. That's tough because a lot of the games they weren't like hands-on, right? A lot of the games weren't hands-on. Like,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they weren't hands on?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. There was a lot of like really cool presentations. I mean, I can tell you about some of my favorite presentations. I mean, I saw Cyberpunk. I saw the Cyberpunk BCD that everyone's written about. So I won't go into it too much unless people in the chat want me to. But Cyberpunk 2077 was incredible. Like the BCD, like the it was it's just feels like so far ahead of everything else. You know, like kind of like The Witcher 3 felt like far ahead of everything else when that came out in terms of like, you know, RPG. But the exciting thing for me about Cyberpunk was like it revives the tradition of dialogue choices in games. Like you go like in Fallout 4, you had like four options for every dialogue choice, and it was like three were no and one was yes, and the yes would lead to no somehow, you know. But like in Cyberpunk, there's like dialogue choices that are tied to your backstory, like in Mass Effect, dialogue choices that are tied to your skills, like in Fallout New Vegas, and then you've got like other dialogue choices which are just like can radically change the path of a quest. So I'm really excited about Cyberpunk because of that. You know, just the sheer amount of choice, and it kind of feels like the game I wanted Deus Ex Mankind Divided to be, because I'm a big Deus Ex fan, but Deus Ex Mankind Divided wasn't the best representation of Deus Ex. I kind of feel like, but that was just staggering. Like the combat was just insane. Like they showed us two different types of combat. One was like a stealth sort of hacker combat where, say for example, there's a turret, you could hack the turret and then turn the turret on your enemies. But the other play style was more like strength and shooting oriented. So instead of hacking the turret, you just sort of sprint up to it and literally rip it out the floor, and then start shooting people with this giant turret. And the gunplay just reduces enemies into like tiny bloody chunks, like Doom. You know, it was just insane. I got some concerns about it though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the AI seemed like it was getting stuck a lot of the time. And they did say at the start of the presentation that it was like their bug fixes and polish to do and stuff like that. But like it felt like the enemies were struggling to string attacks together. Like they do an attack and then get stuck and start thinking about what to do next. And it kind of made combat look less dynamic than it should have been, maybe. But I'm hoping they'll fix that. And they were taking feedback. So hopefully they'll have read that and will polish up some of the enemy combat mechanics. But Cyberpunk was just mind blowing, and I can't express how impossibly excited I am for it. Now that gameplay that we saw is going to be released during PAX West in August, I believe. So look out for that. You know, I'm not going to go into it too much because honestly, it'll be worth the wait, and just check it out yourself in August because it's going to be sick.
Yeah, that sounds pretty badass.
It was pretty badass, man. I ain't gonna lie. I'm really excited for that game. And all the sort of so much negativity in the press about it. I don't know why. Um, because it's I don't know. I don't know if it's just like edgy or something to hate on it, but it was just so good, man. It was so good. I can't really say much else about it. Do you want me to quickly run? Have you played much else, or do you want me to? Just
I played like Omen Sight, which was a cool indie game. Very much like Stories Path of Destinies, like kind of got Batman style combat, and it's like a detective like hack and slash game where like the whole story is the world's about to end, and then you play out like the day, and you learn information, and then you die, and you start everything over again. I thought it was pretty cool. You're gonna give me crap, but I played a little bit of PUBG.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that. I know. And I don't know, that's pretty much it. Like I haven't really been in the mood to play much of anything.
Yeah.
I bought Katana Zero on the Switch. I'll probably end up buying my friend Pedro on the Switch because I want to
Well,
play
that
those
looked
two
good.
games.
That's the game with the banana, right?
Yeah, that game does look pretty cool.
My
But
friend
yeah,
Pedro.
I haven't really played much. So just
Yeah.
give us the rundown so we can start talking about all this conference E3 shindig stuff.
Well, I'll just run through some of them quickly because I know people are eager to hear our thoughts on the press conference and stuff like that. But for some people in chat were asking about Bleeding Edge. I did play Bleeding Edge, and it was one of those games Microsoft revealed on stage at E3 2019. So Bleeding Edge, like it was leaked, so it wasn't really a big surprise. But even though it wasn't a big surprise, a lot of people were still annoyed that it wasn't a single player driven game, which like Hellblade basically. But like I spoke to Ninja Theory at E3, and they said like Bleeding Edge is a passion project made by a smaller team, and that most of Ninja Theory is actually working on something else. So like the producer of Hellblade wasn't working on this, so you have to presume the producer of Hellblade is working on something Hellbladey for the future. So for those who aren't interested in Bleeding Edge, there are things coming as well that you should have, opportunity to look forward to. But I really enjoyed it. Bleeding Edge, like I don't think it's going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's basically what they've done is Rand. They've literally taken World of Warcraft Arena and Smite and sort of tried to make it more melee oriented. It's like it's less of a comparison to Overwatch than I thought it would be. Honestly, playing it felt like playing World of Warcraft Arena, whereas World of Warcraft Arena is sort of hamstrung by having a 15-year-old engine. This runs on Unreal Engine, so it felt way better. It felt like high quality melee combat, like DMC and stuff like that. And the character designs are just crazy, and the game just felt kind of good. I think like there are things that I would tweak, and I can't really go into too much detail about it because it's like it's to do with the feel. Like when you get in hit, you sort of get stunned and slowed, and I don't think that's a good experience. I think it's kind of frustrating. You can dodge roll out of it, but like there's a reason that World of Warcraft Arena has like diminishing returns on hamstrings and stuns and stuff like that. So, but I think that's all stuff that'll get tweaked in its technical alpha, which you can sign up for at bleedingedge.com if you're interested. So, I think the game actually has promise, considering it's being made by 20 people. I genuinely think it's promising,
Mhm.
Um, but beyond Bleeding Edge, I also played Gears Escape Mode, Gears 5 Escape Mode, which that was a surprise. Were you surprised by Escape Mode when they announced it?
Uh, am I surprised that there's a new multiplayer mode for Gears? No, not really. Am I surprised that they decided to show a CGI trailer for the game 3 months before the release? Yes, entirely
Yes, well,
shocked.
we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that, round.
Hmm.
Hold your horses, my dude. But Escape Mode was pretty good. Like it wasn't mind-blowingly amazing. Like it's basically just Left 4 Dead, but Gears of War. And but the sentiment behind its development is more interesting to me because they were saying like horde mode to do like 50 waves of horde mode can take like over an hour, especially on high difficulty. So they wanted to have a PvE mode that was playable in smaller 20-minute chunks, and that's what escape mode is. So like you drop a bomb in a hive in various maps, and then you have to escape as the gas is coming, and the enemies are sort of randomly generated, and the loot's randomly generated. And there's going to be classes, and the classes have ultimate abilities. Like the ultimate abilities I tried, they didn't feel like amazingly mind blowing. Like one of them was like a melee attack that had a little bits of electricity. It wasn't kind of like it still felt very grounded in the Gears universe, which I guess is a good thing in a way. But in a world where we have like Destiny style ultimates and Overwatch style ultimates, which is really crazy, I didn't think they were that amazing. but like the gameplay felt nice, like the fluidity of Gears. It still had that Gears feel, but it felt like it felt tweaked again to be a little bit faster and lighter and stuff like that. And the violence was still satisfying as hell. Like the Breaker Mace is a new two-handed melee weapon which can shred enemies into tiny bloody chunks, which is hilarious. But I suppose the best thing about escape mode is that it's going to have a map editor, and people will be able to make their own maps and share them. So like there could be some really cool content that comes as a result of that. But I don't think escape mode by itself is going to be a selling point. And like you, I would have loved to have seen more of the campaign instead of the PvE mode. But yeah, I mean it was cool, but it wasn't like super original or unique or anything like that, I guess. Um what else? I saw Dying Light 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. How was that?
Um incredible, honestly. Honestly, like I'll say that about Dying Light 2 is that it actually seemed more polished than Cyberpunk. Like you can kind of tell that Cyberpunk is CD Projekt Red's first person game. Because when I went from Cyberpunk, I went straight to Dying Light 2, which like the head bob animations and the melee combat and stuff like that, just it looked a lot tighter than even Cyberpunk, you know. So Dying Light 2, like don't underestimate that game. It really it is looking fantastic, you know, and they've really sort of ramped up the quality of the storytelling in Dying Light 2 as well, and also the parkour. Like I kind of like I felt like with Dying Light 1, after a while, it got really grindy to traverse the city. Did you feel that?
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, eventually, like all those type of things become kind of tiresome to do it. Like
Yeah,
I felt even the same way with Spider-Man. Eventually, at some point in Spider-Man, I was like, yeah, I'm done swinging around the city. Let me just get to where I need to get to as fast as possible. Like it's cool at first, especially Dying Light, but then eventually you just had enough of it, and you're just like, nah, let me just get to where I want to go and
yeah.
play. You know?
Well, that's the thing. Like Dying Light 2, like they've because like Dying Light 2 is set like I can't remember exactly how many years, but it's set a fair few amount of years after Dying Light 1. So the whole world has sort of had to adapt to this new zombie apocalypse sort of scenario. And the whole world sort of regressed into they call it like the modern dark ages, where people have sort of regressed back to the dark age rules and stuff like that. And because like even like the zombies have become even more sensitive to UV light. So the zombies don't come out in the day at all anymore in Dying Light 2. But it's still dangerous on the ground to the point where they need lots of parkour stuff to get around. So like there's pole vaulting now and rope swinging and like the world is just set up for parkour in a way that the first one wasn't. So I think like it'll be so much easier to get around in Dying Light 2. Um, and also like the story decisions have a huge impact on the plot. Like you can lose entire areas of the map by making the wrong decisions in Dying Light 2. So those story consequences should make give the game some replayability as well. So don't sleep on Dying Light 2. If you like the first one, you're probably gonna love the second one. Um, you know, Rand, I played loads. I checked out loads of games, like loads of smaller games and stuff. And I think like the last one I'll shout out before we move into the beefy topics is Empire of Sin. Did you
There
see
was
that?
like the mob boss like XCOM-ish game, right?
Yeah. So Empire of yeah, pretty much like Empire of Sin is a strategy game from Romero Games and Paradox, and it's kind of like XCOM meets Grand Theft Auto, where you start at the bottom and then you build up your own sort of mafia in 1920s Chicago, like setting up protection rackets, setting up alcohol smuggling because it's the Prohibition era, like fighting other gangs in turn-based combat and stuff like that. You can play as like classic gangsters like Al Capone and stuff like that, and with the Tommy gun, and the violence is really really good. And the graphics were absolutely stunning, like the water reflections on the floor and stuff like that. Really, really impressive. So, you know, I like me some turn-based strategy, so I'm really really excited about Empire of Sin, and that's coming to everything: PS4, Switch, and Xbox and PC. So, and Stadia, I guess. Or is it coming to
Stadia.
Stadia? I don't know. But anyway, those are the games that I really loved at E3. I also played Minecraft Earth as well, which was really incredible. I also checked out Project X Cloud, which was really incredible. I suppose we can talk about that some more in a bit. Um, but yeah, like for me, Rand, it was it was the post E3 show that made me love Xbox's E3 more than E3 itself. You know, so
Yeah,
like,
and that's good for you because you know you got to experience it. What about for those of us who are just sitting at home watching on Twitch or Mixer or YouTube, where you didn't get to play these games, where you didn't get to go and see Bleeding Edge, where you didn't get to go play Gears Escape or any of these other games, and it was just here's your hour and a half segment, move on to the next one.
yeah,
You know,
it was yeah. I mean, I was thinking that like after the, I mean, should we just start reviewing the E3 show now?
yeah, you know what? Might as well. We got 410 people here watching. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. And we'll get right into the conference and everything surrounding E3 that came out of it. Scarlet, Lockhart, PlayStation 5. But let's delve right into what Microsoft showed. But
Yeah.
before we do that, we have a super chat from Bad Boy Live. He says, "Fight Simulator at the show. Did anybody talk about a date for release? I'm guessing it's a next gen title just based off how good it looked. I don't think there was a date for Flight Simulator. There wasn't a date for a lot of these games. I don't like Battletoads didn't have a date, so I'm not sure if it's. I mean, it's definitely not this year. I don't even know if it's 2020. I mean, maybe it's probably 2020. Like Gears Tactics didn't even show up, so who even knows when that game's coming out?
Yeah, I was
Um,
surprised Gears Tactics didn't show up because I thought maybe they would have put Gears Tactics on the PC gaming show, but
mhm.
they didn't show up there either. So I guess it's just I think it might just be like they want to put the focus on Gears 5 until Gears 5
Which is
ships.
smart.
Yeah.
Which is
I
which
mean,
is smart, but they
you'll end up
still
confusing people.
yeah. So there was there wasn't a lot of dates on a lot of stuff here, especially Flight Simulator. Maybe that's a
Mhm.
2020 title. Maybe it's an early 2021 title. Did they even have a date for Wasteland 3? I'm not even sure.
Uh,
Um, I
wasn't
don't.
it 2020? I think they did have a date for Wasteland 3, actually.
They might have.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
think, yeah.
okay. So I don't even know how you want to even begin dissecting the show.
Okay, do you want me to tell you how I felt after the show?
Yeah, tell me how you felt as soon as the show ended and you met up with Tim Dog and King David and everybody who was
Yeah.
there watching it. What was your initial feelings?
Well, I was sitting with Colt
Uh huh.
Eastwood, and I was sitting with King David from the Iron Lord podcast. Shout out to Iron Lord podcast, and I was also sitting with Tim Dog and stuff like that. And like when the lights came on, I just kind of looked around and I was like, "Is that it?
Is it over? Is
Is it?"
this
Yeah. I was
is
kind of like I was deflated. Like Gunstar75 put in chat, like I felt deflated, and I was starting to immediately starting to wonder why I felt deflated because on paper it was a good show. Oh, I was sitting with Sean LeBrie as well. Sorry, Sean. Forgot Sean. I was sitting with a bunch of people. Um, like I mean, there was how many people were there? Like 5,000 people were there, or something. Also, Roby was there.
shout out to Roby.
Shout out to Roby. But
Such a good dude.
Roby got called away. He had to go and sit with the
And
Halo
Sean
team.
LeBrie. Sean LeBrie's here.
Sean LeBrie
He
was there.
makes excellent artwork. I'm gonna have to hit him up. I've been thinking about doing some redesigns for my stuff. I'm gonna have to talk to Sean. Maybe get a professional's take on some things.
Yeah, he's a good dude for that.
Yeah.
But I looked around and everyone's sort of like it wasn't just me. Like everyone sort of had this look on their face like, oh, oh, that was the end. and I've been doing some thinking about why I felt that way. And I think it was because even though they did show a lot of stuff and a lot of good stuff that I actually enjoyed, it was only after E3 that I got hands-on time with Gears Escape, and I got hands-on time with Bleeding Edge, and I got hands-on time with Minecraft Dungeons, where I started to feel like they'd actually had a good E3. The show by itself made me feel like they didn't have a good E3. And I watched the show again this morning with the ability to pause and rewind and stuff like that. And I honestly feel like it was just the way it was cut. Like, the show itself was so confusing. Like, that whole Gears 5 segment was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like,
don't mince words here, Jazz.
I ain't mincing words, man. I hated the Gears 5 segment. And, like, the way they did that sort of weird trailer with Kate, which was kind of cool, but maybe I would have enjoyed it more if it was on YouTube instead of on the stage. And like the whole segment with the sort of the dungeon hive thing under the stage, that was lame. And then they were like, "Oh, by the way, here's some WWE superstars," and I was, they're gonna play escape mode now, and I was like, "Are we gonna see escape mode?"
No, you get a CGI trailer for escape mode, Jazz. You better like it.
So, like, yeah, and like the trailer was nice, but again, it didn't tell me what escape mode was really. So it wasn't until I played it for myself that I understood that whole segment. And it felt the whole conference, like even from the Outer Worlds trailer at the very start, even from the start of the show with the Outer Worlds, and like the Minecraft Dungeons trailer, and then the Bleeding Edge trailer, and all these trailers, they were so rapidly cut. It was like watching a Michael Bay fight scene where there's just explosions and awkward camera angles, and you can't really tell what's going on. So I thought like the show was poorly conceived. I think like what they should have done is they should have had an extra 30 minutes and actually showed some gameplay demos.
Gameplay demos? What are those? I've never heard of such things before.
Yeah,
gameplay demos,
crazy,
like
right?
A demo of you playing the game. Is that possible? Are those? Have we seen these things before somewhere? I'm not sure.
I don't know. A gameplay demo for a game that's coming out in 2 or 3 months.
Well, I got to give a shout out to Face for the super chat. It says Phil Spencer just confirmed they're only working on one next gen console. Thoughts? We'll talk about that with the Lockhart segment. And Sajibot again with the support. I really appreciate it, brother. He says, shameless plug, more people need to play Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Carry on. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is out now. It's Iggyvania game from the creator of Castlevania.
That's getting rave reviews. I thought that game was going to flop because of how many delays it had, but this Ritual of the Night seems to be an example of a delay actually being a good thing.
Yeah, so. It's getting really good reviews. Sounds like it's a really good game. It's up pretty much on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, so check it out. But Jazz, E3. Oh my! It's like you said at the beginning. Okay, on paper, sounds like a great show. 60 games in total. That's a lot of games, right? 14 games from Microsoft's first-party studios, Xbox Game Studios. That's a lot of games from Microsoft's own internal studios, more than they ever had before, like shown at a show, right? 34 games premiering on Xbox Game Pass. You want to know a positive about the show? Game Pass is amazing. I love how Game Pass is on console. It's on PC. There's 100 games on PC. Ultimate, the subscription that combines it both. It's $15, which console Game Pass is 10. PC Game Pass is 10. Gold is like 5. So you save some money if you want to get both. You can basically have, they call the Netflix of gaming. Like, I think Game Pass is incredible. And with all these Microsoft's own games and all these other games launching on Game Pass, it's super awesome. Like, so that's one super positive thing I'll say about the show. I think they really hammered home the Game Pass stuff, and it didn't seem like an overt commercial for Game Pass like XO18 was. Remember?
Oh God,
where XO18 was
so
like
transparent.
with a very just cringy commercial for Game Pass.
Yeah.
This one, it was more subtle. I mean, there's still and it's incredibly important to it, right? So like
They were letting the product speak for itself at E3.
yeah. And plus you could convert your existing subscriptions for $1. Like I got Game Pass Ultimate until 2022. I don't know how many other people did the exact same. Like it's just such an incredibly good deal. But it's like when you say like on paper it sounds like a great show, but the execution was lacking. The pacing, what was shown off wasn't really good. I was expecting gameplay demos for some of these games, and what I got were just gameplay trailers. So I'm gonna start from the beginning. Like I really enjoyed the new kind of Xbox Game Studios logo that pops up at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I felt that I got a sense of like it gives off a sense of pride. Like you could it finally feels that Microsoft has pride in their first party studios, whereas before, considering they didn't really have many, so it comes off as like, hey, we're in this. You know, Phil talked about building an industry leading first party, and they built that, you know, kind of intro. Very much resembles the MCU, the Marvel intros for the Marvel movies, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Now, I will say, starting with the Outer Worlds was weird. The Outer Worlds to me isn't really a game you start off a show with. So I kind of thought starting the show with Outer Worlds kind of set. I don't know. It just felt weird to me, even though the game looks amazing from all accounts. It's like the best Fallout game ever made. And the announcement it's coming to Game Pass on day one for both PC, and console, which on the PC side, it's an Epic exclusive, remember?
I love that it's in Game Pass, even though it's supposed to be exclusive to the Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the PC gamers who hate Epic Game Store, they'll probably just get it on Game Pass.
Yeah, they'll probably
tolerate Game Pass for a month.
And like, yeah, it's like Joe Taylor says in the chat, the tone of the trailer was weird. Exactly. Like it didn't feel like a trailer you want to start out the show with. It just felt like a weird trailer. Even though I'm really excited to play the game, it just was a weird starting point that Microsoft was doing. A shout out for Sajibot for the super chat. He says lack of gameplay demos was widespread E3, which made all of E3 lackluster. See, this isn't just a Microsoft symptom. Yeah, I didn't like any of the conferences.
I've got some input for this.
Ooh, like, you got some. So why weren't there a lot of gameplay demos? Like there was. I watched like 8 hours of conferences. Right? EA only had Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Microsoft had 0. Bethesda had 0. Although I guess you could say like the 3 minutes of Doom Eternal at the end might count for that, right? Ubisoft had 1, which was Watch Dogs Legions, which actually sold me on the game. Square Enix had a long presentation for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I actually really enjoyed. And then they showed kind of some Avengers gameplay, which was gameplay, but it was really tough to kind of get a grasp of what was going on. So at all these shows, there was only 3 or 4 lengthy gameplay demos. And you said you have some background. Like, what is? Are they afraid to show gameplay, Jez?
Yes.
Why are they afraid to show game? Are they afraid people will get bored, or are they more looking out? They don't want like an Anthem situation where people compare what the game they were trying to sell back in 2017 to the final product that you got in 2019.
Well, that's pretty much it. I spoke to a few people in marketing, right, in a couple of different companies. And I said, like, there's a prevailing sentiment that having like a CGI trailer or a choreographed in-engine trailer is better than having a gameplay demo, because gameplay demos often aren't representative of final product, and then people get mad, you know? So like you mentioned Anthem. Like if you look at those early Anthem demos, it looked amazing, you know. Sorry, I'm just choking a bit. Like they showed a walkthrough in the bazaar in Anthem, and it even come up at the bottom in-engine footage. But when you start like to add the systems to the game, and they have to start peeling back on some of the visuals in order to get the game to run properly, you end up with situations where people are crying downgrade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason a lot of companies have stopped doing these gameplay demos is because they're worried that the final product won't completely match up. So apparently it's not just a Microsoft thing. It seems to have been like some kind of prevailing business-wide thing. You know,
Definitely does seem like it. I don't know if how much of next generation being right on the horizon has anything to do with it, where some of these games aren't ready. But it definitely, that's my biggest complaint about this year's E3 was the gameplay demos. Where were they?
there wasn't much, was there?
There was hardly any. Um, and I mean, they sold me Watch Dogs Legion based on that gameplay because I didn't think the trailers were very good. But seeing that 10-minute gameplay, watching it, I was like, all right, like I'm sold on this game. I am now looking forward to it. Some people will say, well, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order didn't show very well. And I thought they showed off a very simplistic demo, which I understand people might be like, that seems way too easy because he wasn't, basically killing enemies in one blow. But then you hear more about the game, how it's really a Metroidvania game, or like a Dark Souls game and stuff like that, that it's actually more involved than what they showed off. And you get more excited for it. But that was my whole problem with the entire E3, not just like Microsoft's all right. So back to Microsoft, Bleeding Edge, like you mentioned, you got to play it. A whole bunch of people at the show got to play it. Apparently it's very good. It was made just like how I said in my videos, because we had said months ago, Jazz, back in April when I mentioned, hey, it's a multiplayer combat game. I don't think there's single player, and people were like, no, that can't be true. That's impossible. Remember? I was like, no, it's Overwatch with melee weapons, right?
It's Absolvery, although it's not really, it's not like Absolver really, but that was like the most obvious comparison at the time.
But I always said like, hey, I was told that the game was in development well before Microsoft bought them, and when Microsoft got them, they were like, hey, this is cool. We can release this game relatively soon after we buy Ninja Theory, because there's always that thing with people like, well, it's great you bought all these studios, but when are you releasing any of the games? Yeah. And it's like, well, here we bought Ninja Theory and they got a game to go early 2020. So it's like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and because they're working with Microsoft, it means dedicated servers, which is pretty important for a melee combat game, right?
Yeah. I mean, so it looks cool. It's got technical alpha coming pretty soon. I do kind of wish the game didn't leak beforehand. Like someone actually just ripped the trailer. I mean, I thought that was kind of bull. But I mean, they came out on stage. They basically said, hey, we got more projects going at the studio. I mean, they were always a 14 team when they were independent. One team making Hellblade, one team making Bleeding Edge, and the other two teams doing some other stuff. I am curious to see or to know if they still retain their 4-team approach. I was always under the impression, or at least told, that there was at least 2 teams. One was doing Bleeding Edge and one was doing, a different game. So I would imagine we'll find out later on, either this year or definitely next year, what their next game is. So looking forward to checking out Bleeding Edge. Ori 2, the dagger to my heart, Jazz. Oh my god. Ugh.
Why?
The delay to February 11th killed me. I DM'd you that morning of that show, and I said I had heard it was delayed. And I was like, this kills me, Jazz. This kills me. But it looks so good though. Like, as much as it pains me to not be able to play Ori 2 this year, it's like, all right, perfection takes time. We all know this. Take all the time you need with Ori 2. Make it as good as you think you need it to be, right? But oh my god, I was so looking forward to playing this game this year. Like, in my mind, I was like, okay, Ori's August, Gears is September. And it was Ori. Like, why couldn't you have delayed Gears? Why couldn't you have delayed Gears and give me Ori this year? To be honest, I would have taken that. I know a lot of people in the chat will probably be, no, Rand, you're crazy. I would have taken Ori 2 this year and a Gears delay till next year. 100%.
You
100%.
You would have put the Coalition on Moon Studios.
I think Ori's a
Ori
better
would,
game than Gears.
Ori would have been a lot more violent. Can you imagine Ori with a chainsaw?
That
Sawing the crow in half.
I,
I don't know.
I think Ori is going to be a better game than Gears. I don't care. I'd rather have Ori this year than Gears, but that's just me. And then your favorite game of the show, Minecraft Dungeons, Spring 2020, looks quite cool. Phil Spencer came out on stage, gave us the spiel, gaming for everybody, all the games they're going to show, blah 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 blah. Showed us trailer for Star Wars, and then like the one game that got people question, what is it? Blair Witch? Remember? Like I sat there in party chat, and I'm sitting there thinking like what is this game? Everybody was throwing out guesses. Is it Alan Wake? Is it Silent Hill? What is this game?
I thought it was Outlast 3.
Yeah, I thought it was Outlast 3 as well.
I saw the shape of the sticks, and then I immediately clocked that it was Blair Witch because that was prominent in the movie. Those figures made out of sticks in the trees. I was like, oh my god, they're doing a Blair Witch game. And when I saw the dude facing the wall.
See, I never seen the Blair Witch, so I didn't know. When the dude was staring at the wall, I had no idea. I was just like, okay, what is this?
That dude staring at the wall, that's like from Blair Witch the movie, but you have to watch the first Blair Witch movie. Don't watch the second one.
Okay.
Oh well, you can watch the second one for a bit of a laugh. But like the second one's like more of a cash in. The first one is incredible. Like it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And like I know it's popular and stuff like that, and it's cool to hate things that are unpopular, but it was so masterfully done for the time, and it was also one of the first ever internet viral marketing campaigns. It was a true guerrilla movie and a really great event in cinematic history. Like they made the whole thing on such a tiny budget, and like if you haven't seen the Blair Witch, it's even now it holds up. It's better than 90% of horror movies out there. It's so subtle and so well done.
So it's a Blair Witch game. It's made by Bloober Team, who put out Layers of Fear 1 and 2 and Observer. It's coming out real soon, August 30th, and it's also launching on Game Pass. And I believe it is only coming out on PC and Xbox.
Yeah,
at least right now. Timed
exclusive.
It's not timed exclusive.
Not fully exclusive. It's timed
exclusive. So Emperor Zergi says in chat, this is why Splinter game doesn't have a sequel because the nonsense Randall Thor 19 says. Excuse me? You think there's no Splinter Cell sequel because of stupid stuff I say? What?
What?
Because I said I'd rather have Gears delayed than Ori. That's what it is. I do say some stupid stuff sometimes.
You jinxed it, man. You jinxed it.
And Splinter Cell, I got a bone to pick with you. Detour 1 single second here, sir. Let's detour from this Xbox thing. You always reveled in the fact of my pain of Splinter Cell not being a thing. And then you always said Splinter Cell mobile or a match 3 game. And what happened at Ubisoft E3? Sam Fisher in a mobile game, even though it's not a Splinter Cell game, it's a freaking Rainbow Six mobile game. And Sam Fisher's
Splinter Cell.
You did this to me, Jez.
Splinter Cell's so bad that he doesn't even get his own mobile game. He just gets a cameo in someone else's mobile game. That's how bad Splinter Cell is.
It's not even his own game.
I didn't even have insider information about that or anything. I was literally just trolling you.
Yeah, and you ended up being right. Sam Fisher in the Rainbow Six mobile game, unbelievable. Part of me literally died when I saw that. When I saw that show up during the conference, and then I saw Shinobi tweet that, I died. I died, and I'll forever 100% blame you because you wished that into existence, and that's the reason when you tweeted out, "Hey, give me your unpopular opinions," I said, "You know what? Pokemon is trash, and fishing sucks."
Oh my god, that's just mean.
I'm just saying,
look, man, it's not my fault that Splinter Cell is just a bit of an overrated franchise, man.
You want to talk about overrated? You want to talk about Pokemon for a second there? You talk about
Yeah,
overrated?
I'm done with Pokemon, man. I'm done. Yeah, have you seen the drama about Pokemon? Pokemon
What
fans ain't
now?
Pokemon fans ain't happy right now, Rand. They ain't happy
Mm, yeah, well, they deserve not to be happy. They like Pokemon.
because have you seen the dislikes on the trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield?
I have not. What are they like?
It's pretty bad. It's like 75% dislikes last time I checked. Like 30,000 dislikes or something.
Damn.
Because do you know what they've done, Rand?
What did they do?
They have cut hundreds of Pokemon from the game and said,
Oh yeah, I did see that.
yeah, we're only bringing a few dozen because we want to rebalance the game. So like
Hmm.
all the Pokemon that people have collected over the years, they're gone. They're gone, Rand. They're gone like a Thanos snap, you know.
Thanos snap gone.
They're all gone. They're all gone.
But enough of talking about Pokemon because nobody cares because it's a terrible franchise. I
Don't
just had to
care.
bring up the Splinter Cell thing because it's been bugging me. But I do see an interesting question in chat from Mr. No Comment. He says, Rand, The Last of Us Part 2 versus Ori in February. Pick your choice if you had to choose one. That is a insanely tough choice. Say they're both
Really?
February.
I'd pick The Last of Us.
Last of Us 2 or Ori. If I could only play one, why do you do this to me? This is a tough choice.
Dude, that's an easy.
No, it's not easy. No, it's
The
not.
Last of Us, man.
I thought Ori was going to be this year, and everybody knows it was the game I was looking forward to the most over everything because I didn't think Last of Us 2 was going to be this year.
Ori doesn't even have blood in it. Why would you choose
See,
that?
Ori 1 I think is almost close to a perfect game as you could get. I think I gave it like a 9.5. I love that game. Last of Us, probably the best PlayStation game out there. I think it's better than. I mean, Last of Us is clearly the model the PlayStation games have kind of modeled themselves after, right? Like God of War, the games kind of since then. But like, I think Last of Us is still like the benchmark. I know people like God of War is, and maybe for this gen, yeah, God of War is probably the best PlayStation exclusive. But even still, I think Last of Us is better. We'll see how Last of Us 2 is, but if I had to choose, oh god, don't make me say this. Day one, if I could only choose one. So is it one of those things where if I have to choose one, I can't play the other? Oh my god.
When did they come out?
Well,
Spring.
nobody. So Ori 2 is February 11th. There's been rumors going around that Last of Us Part 2 is in February sometime potentially. God, that is a tough question. That is a tough question. I probably would play Last of Us Part 2. Oh, and I hate myself for just saying it. But next year, 2020 is a three-way dance for Game of the Year between Last of Us Part 2, Ori 2, and Cyberpunk 2077. It's a three-way dance for Game of the Year. And I said that on Twitter, and some people were like, nah, you also got to add in Halo Infinite. Which maybe depending on how good it is, yeah, but I think those three, at least for me, I'm talking about for me, I'm not from like the general public, but thinking about that. All right, back to what we were talking about, the Xbox show. And if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you hit the like button. We got 486 of you here, but only 127 likes, 8 dislikes. Come on, folks, it's free. Just reach down there, hit that little thumbs up icon. Hit the sub button if you're new and enjoy the show. Appreciate it. So we left off at the apex of the show, Jazz. Who would have thought this would have been the highlight of the show? Cyberpunk, right? Cyberpunk has a CGI trailer, which, you know what? Let me rant here a second about CGI stuff.
Oh, no.
CGI does not get me excited for a game. You want to know why? Because the game doesn't look like that, or does it play like that? However, with that said, I will accept CGI trailers when it's the first time announcing the game. I understand sometimes concept, maybe the game's not ready. So, for instance, at the Bethesda conference, they showed Ghostwire, or whatever the heck that game is, as well as Deathloop. Even though
Bethesda show, yeah.
Even though both of those games were CGI, I'm cool with that. It was the first time we've ever seen these games. So I'm fine with the idea of the first time being a CGI trailer. Where I kind of draw the line is this the second time showing your game? Is this the third time showing your game? Is your game coming out in less than 2 months, 3 months? I got an issue having CGI trailers. I know sometimes they'll use it for TV adverts and stuff like that, but personally, CGI does nothing for me. I'm okay with it being at the very first time, but after that, not so much. Cyberpunk, revealed last year in a great trailer to end the Microsoft conference, was all in engine. And for whatever reason this year, they're like CGI trailer. So I'm sitting there, I'm just like, whatever. But oh man, Jez, did they have the biggest surprise of all time?
They did. I was
they
shocked.
Had Keanu Reeves.
Do you know what I was thinking when that silhouette? Because like they showed the end of that trailer, it was Keanu Reeves, right? And then they opened the door, and there was like Keanu Reeves' silhouette there. And I was thinking, oh, that's just a guy pretending to be Keanu Reeves, and then he's going to go away, and we're never going to see him. He'll just be like the shadow of him. But then he actually walked out on stage, and I was like, oh my God, that's actually Keanu Reeves. I'm 20 meters away from him. I could, I did a little fanboy for a moment there. But that whole segment was just amazing. Like, you could see visibly in his face that he was surprised about the amount of energy he was getting, like, from the crowd.
And
that dude created a meme.
Indie Gamer and Yoshana talking about, we've already seen gameplay for Cyberpunk. That's true. Last year they released like 50 minutes of gameplay. I'm just saying, see, for me, like I don't know, like number one, I don't know what other people think about the conference. And number two, I don't care what other people think about the conference, to be honest with you. I don't form my opinion based on what other people feel about the show. I watched the show. This is what I think, right? And I'm just telling you, CGI doesn't do anything for me, period. Whether it's Cyberpunk or
remember
any other game.
The Witcher 2 CGI trailer?
You with the one on the boat?
That was a very special CGI trailer, though.
It was a cool CGI trailer, but it still didn't make me really want to play Witcher. I played Witcher because of what the gameplay and stuff I saw. So yeah, I know that Cyberpunk has a bunch of gameplay out there. I'm just saying, I don't like CGI trailers. Like if it was the CGI trailer last year and then like kind of a revised gameplay one for this year, it'd be a little bit different. But that's just me. I know I'm a little weird when it comes to that stuff.
They actually did, like, unlike some of the other companies, Cyberpunk actually posted an explanation on their Twitter account where they were like, we want to do it behind closed doors because we want it to be exclusive to press so we can help build hype for the game. And because we want the game to do as well as it can and stuff like that. It does feel like there's been like a weird shift back to traditional press this year, giving press exclusivity. Whereas like before you just, like, for a little while it felt like everything was moving to Twitch, but this year it's only press that's gotten access. So that's kind of weird in a way. I don't know.
So the Keanu came out. He's a big part of the game. I think he's your sidekick. He comes out, like Jess says, clearly surprised by the emotion and the outpouring of love people are giving him. And he has this great speech he gives. And of course there's the guy who says, "You're breathtaking," and Keanu Reeves is like, "You're breathtaking, you're all breathtaking." And it was such a great moment. It was the highlight of the show, the apex. And honestly, the show kind of went way downhill afterwards. Like, leading up to that point, you could say it's getting its footing. Outer Worlds, I don't think the best start, but okay. Bleeding Edge, cool. Ori 2, amazing. Minecraft Dungeon looks cool. Phil coming out there telling what you're going to see, on point. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a better trailer than the demo they showed, the day before. Blair Witch getting people really like, what is going on? And then you have Cyberpunk here, and people are excited. Everyone's hearts are beating at 120, beats a minute, right? Or whatever it is. Like, people are pumped.
You're gonna say
the energy's in the room.
120 frames per second.
Yeah, I know, right? The energy in the room is high. People are excited. They're like, yeah, this is what we came to see. It's all going down. And then it all crashed to the floor because for whatever reason, and I think this has to do with the person who maybe put it together, they decided to go after Cyberpunk. They went into a long segment about indie games and then talking about Game Pass, and the show could never recover after that. It was so weird. And that's not to say indie games are horrible. I love indie games. I really like the one they showed right after Cyberpunk, Spiritfarer. I think that game looks good. As someone is calling on the landline. So Jazz, why don't you mention Spiritfarer and Battletoads, and I'll wait for the phone to stop ringing.
Well, Spiritfarer, like, this was another one of the trailers that like was really fast paced and didn't really give us much of an explanation of what it is. But from the looks of it, Spiritfarer seems to be like a sort of side scrolling, sort of cutesy adventure game where you guide the spirits of the dead to their final resting place. But it has fishing, so it's got that going for it. And then what was the other game you wanted me to talk about?
So then Battletoads. They showed off Battletoads. The first time we got to see Battletoads.
Like again, Battletoads didn't show very well in the trailer.
No, it certainly did not.
But people on the show floor said it was super fun.
That very well could be.
I didn't get to play it. But
however, local co-op and only in 2019, Jez? Are we really doing this?
See, I don't get it, right? When Microsoft is supposedly the cloud company and they don't add cloud for their own games. What's the deal with that?
I don't understand. Like, Battletoads, I don't know. Like, I don't like the art style. It has a Castle Crashers aesthetic. It could be great for all I know. I haven't played the game. It could be really cool. But the fact that it's like, the previews I read is like, oh, we played it in 3-player co-op and it's really great and all this stuff. And then I'm thinking to myself, I don't got anybody to play this with in co-op, let alone 3-player co-op. I'm not even sure most people do. But it's 2020 when this game comes out. Why is it local co-op only? And then be like, well, Rand, maybe the studio is super small. They couldn't really do it. Okay, understandable. But it's published by Microsoft Studios. You're telling me Microsoft? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, why is this game like some people say, well, Cuphead's only local because, you know, the online would add all this latency to it and all this stuff, and it wouldn't be whatever excuses you want to come up with. Right? So when I see like these indie games, and Battletoads is exactly that. It's an indie game, clearly, right? And I hear it's like what Snatcher Hunter says in the chat, local co-op, definitely low budget game. And I think that, like, it just says to me, you could only do local co-op, couldn't do online co-op, then something must be, you know, there must be something with the budget to the game. But that's just me. I
like, it looks like a budget game. Like, the amount of frames per animation is really low. You know, like, so like when you do a punch, there's far less frames per animation than a bigger budget game would add, I would think. But apparently it felt really good. Like,
yeah.
People, so I compared it, like I saw people playing it and I was like, it looks kind of like Castle Crashers, and someone was saying to me like, oh, it feels way better than Castle Crashers. So I took that as a good sign, because Castle Crashers felt pretty good to me. Like, maybe a bit, I don't know, like it lacked a bit of oomph, maybe Castle Crashers did, but for the time, for like a Flash style game, I think pre-Unity.
A lot of people, refer to, Castle Crashers as a style, and Han Zolo says, Rand, you don't want to play Battletoads online because of the latency. I'm like, I played Castle Crashers online back on the 360. It had on the online co-op.
Well,
so I mean, like, I don't.
Another thing, like Battletoads is historically supposedly a mega hard game, and apparently they were saying on the show floor that only 5% of people who played the demo actually finished it.
Okay, maybe, yeah. So we'll have to see whenever that game comes out. After Battletoads, they went to Legends of Right, and they also had an ID at Xbox segment where they showed off a montage of games like they do every year. Some of them look really good. All of them are launching into Game Pass day one. They went into Game Pass. Sarah Bond came out. She's head of partnerships. They announced that Batman Arkham Knight, Borderlands, Metro, and Hollow Knight will be joining Game Pass console. Metro Exodus was like kind of the big ad because it just came out like 4 months ago. Game Pass PC coming out, over 100 games. There's a beta that starts for that. It's normally $5, but it's on sale for $1. And then of course there's Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you everything. And so it's like you go from Cyberpunk and this insane amount of energy, and you just kill it. You kill everybody's energy with Spiritfarer, Battletoads, Legends of Right, ID at Xbox montage, and someone coming out and talking about Game Pass. The show never recovered after that for me. And I was after that, I'm sitting there holding out hope. I'm like, all right, we still got Gears coming up. We still have Halo Infinite coming up. Maybe they're gonna surprise. But like, if I had to like, obviously hindsight is 2020, but like I was thinking like there's definitely a better way you can transition from Cyberpunk and Keanu Reeves to keep the energy kind of high instead of just basically, you know, reaching in everybody's chest and pulling out their hearts. Because every single time, like when they showed off the next game, the clapping became less, the screaming became less. Like people were starting to like
what you meant to do with these sort of things. Like if when you storyboard in a movie, and I know a little bit about this because I did media studies at GCSE, which is high school media studies. When you have a climatic moment in the middle of a production, you are supposed to have like give the audience a break. You do see this in movies sometimes where like there's something crazy happens, and then like the next scene will be like sort of like a more chill as it builds up again to another climax. But that climax never came. Like there was nothing on par with Keanu. Like the Halo Infinite finish was cool, but it was only cool. It wasn't like, oh my god, that's mind-blowing stuff. Like I wish they would have shown Infinite in action a bit, like when the hood popped up, like the Halo hood popped up on Master Chief's visor. I was like, oh cool, they're gonna show some shooting and show us like what's new, what's changed, and give us things to analyze and look forward to and feedback on. But they didn't really. So I mean, and I get it because it's not coming out for a while. And I suppose they just wanted to like maybe set the tone of what to expect and stuff like that. But it's I don't know. I just would have liked to have seen some gameplay, I guess.
What a weird request to see some gameplay. So incredibly weird.
But I think like even if like they didn't show Halo game, like they could have gotten away with not showing any Halo Infinite gameplay if they'd showed some Gears of War gameplay, but they didn't do that either.
Well, yeah. So they went on from the Game Pass stuff to announcing Microsoft Flight Simulator, which got a decent reaction, and even on the YouTube channel, it's got a lot of views. A lot of PC people are super excited for Flight Simulator.
That game has a massive following.
It does. It does. It's not a game for me, though I have played some of the previous ones. But I mean, it looked good. Like judging from that trailer, I'm like, it looked good. So they showed off Flight Sim, which is going to make a lot of people happy. Age of Empires 2 HD. I'm just going to say it like it is. I don't care one bit for Age of Empires at all. Any of them, any future ones, I don't care.
Has a big following.
I know. I understand it has a big following. To me, I just don't care about Age of Empires. I'll never care about Age of Empires. And then they showed Wasteland 3.
What if there's a Splinter Cell Age?
Be quiet. Don't even will that into existence. Don't even will that into existence. So then Wasteland 3. Matt Booty came out up on stage, talked about Game Pass, or not Game Pass, but first party studios, and they announced that they bought Double Fine, where Tim Schafer came up on stage, and now Microsoft is publishing Psychonauts 2.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that I was teasing that I'd heard they bought another studio?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't Double Fine.
So it was a different one.
It was a different studio. So like I was surprised. I was like, oh, they're announcing that studio I heard about now. But then it was like, oh, it's not that studio I heard about. So maybe that studio is either was wrong or it's still on the way or something.
Maybe they're still in talks. But yeah, so they announced that studio, Double Fine joining, and then later on the Newswire, they announced the Shannon Loftus-led Age of Empires studio that's internally built. That's going to handle Age of Empires stuff.
It has a name.
It does have a name.
But it's not been announced yet.
Right,
it's supposedly going to have a name.
Then they showed Lego Skywalker, which is like all 9, Star Wars games. A new Dragon Ball Z game. Maybe one of the coolest games I saw at the show. 12 minutes. Like that game, like the premise, from the trailer to like how it started and when it ended, I was like, oh, okay, this is on my to watch list. Like 12-minute game that looks incredible, and then another game called Way to the Woods, and then finally we get to the Gears 5 segment. So like this whole time, I'm like, okay, this is all not living up to Keanu. Waiting for Gears to come. It's coming out in September 10th, right? Like, oh yeah, Gears. Well, if you were expecting gameplay, you're sorely mistaken. If you're expecting campaign, well, obviously that's not going to happen. So, Rod comes out, says it's coming out September 10th, that you can play it 4 days early on September 6th with the Ultimate Edition, which, by the way, they're giving you as part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So if you're sub to Ultimate, you can play Gears 5 4 days early, which I think is a cool perk going forward if they do that for all the Ultimate games. And then they mention how they have...
It's a cool perk, but it's also annoying.
Is it annoying?
It's so arbitrary. I mean, why not just release it for everyone 4 days early?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. The real release is like the 6th, so why are you holding off? I get it. But they want people to either pay, what is it, like the $80 price tag for the game or, subscribe to Ultimate. So you got to give people perks. Yeah. And then they talked about the not the release schedule, but like the rollout, the planned rollout, the reveal of the game. Multiplayer is coming on like July 7th for a technical test, or like the 17th. Where they show off Versus Arcade. The Horde mode is getting debuted at Gamescom on August 19th. And then they said, like, Rod Ferguson's like, in the campaign will show off in September before the game's released. And I'm like, scratching my head. I'm like, did he really just say that? Like, what's going on? And then, of course, they show off the new mode. They have the camera dipped underneath the stage into the hive, as they call it. And they talk about Escape, this new three-player co-op game where you're basically trying to escape from a deadly gas. You're hive busters.
And it has a comic.
Yeah, and they showed a CGI trailer set to some awful music. And
I like that music.
I didn't like it, but they showed a CGI trailer, and then they're like, hey, you see these WWE wrestlers? You want to see gameplay of the game? Well, head over to Mixer after the show, and we're going to have gameplay of the game that you want to see and you've waited to see for years. And then it was like, and by the way, if you pre-order, here's the Terminator. It was like, okay, and then it was over, and it was at that moment I was like, wow, Microsoft has lost the plot on the show. Like, really?
That whole Gears segment was kind of reminding me of, like those old Looney Tunes cartoons where like Daffy Duck or something would fall down some stairs and just keep falling and then like land on like a rake and then keep falling. It just kind of felt like that, like just messy. But it's just like, I'm a big Gears fan, Like I
know you said Gears is better than Halo. You said it's a bigger franchise. Yeah.
You could trash Halo. Like I will take Gears 1,000 times over Halo.
Even though Gears has always been like a B tier franchise, I get it.
Well, if Gears is B tier, then Splinter Cell's got to be like a F tier or something.
Splinter Cell's an A tier. Halo's an S tier franchise.
Okay. Let's not.
Okay.
But I was, as a fan, I was annoyed, and you can see like that sort of disappointment sort of translated over to the Gears of War subreddit, and a lot of the people there were complaining. And you know what it is, Rand? It's the sense that they're hiding something.
That was the first thought I had. I had, Jez.
The fear that they're hiding something. Like if it's good and you've got good stuff to show, why would you not show it at the biggest stage where everyone's watching? Why would you instead give airtime to some WWE superstars who nobody cares about, or maybe like 3 people care about?
Maybe
why would you give airtime to that instead of your bloody campaign?
Or they gave the exclusive gameplay to IGN. Like, here's the thing. It's your show. This is the show you're putting. I shouldn't have to go and search out gameplay for Escape. Like, you have my attention. You have my attention right now. I'm watching the show. Show me the game. Don't make me go and find a different channel or watch something else to see your thing. You have my attention. My attention and everybody's attention in the world is very limited. You have my attention for this hour and a half. You know, don't make me search out different things. Like it's the same thing I have with some of the Halo like lore. Like they expect you sometimes to read the novels, but I'm sorry, like most people don't read the novels. So don't expect me to know things that happened in a different game or a different media thing. It's like you have my attention, explain it to me now, show me the game. I don't want to. Don't give me well. You log on to Mixer and you can see Xavier Woods, AJ Styles play the game. No, I'm right here, right now. Show it to me.
Yeah, it felt like they were doing it for themselves rather than the fans. Like attaching celebrities to any game is just pure vanity. Like that's for you. That's for you to feel good, Microsoft. I don't give a shit about some celebrities. I want to see the game. And they didn't give us the game. So I was like, I thought that whole segment was a train wreck. And like after that Gears segment, it just has sort of had like a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the show, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Shinzo
I can't even
says,
remember what happened after that.
Shinzo Elite says, we know exactly how Gears plays, so why show gameplay? Well, okay, but while that is true, Rod Ferguson's been out there saying how they wanted to earn your trust with 4 and how they wanted to do things differently with Gears 5, how it's the most open Gears yet, and all these different, adjectives to describe how Gears is changing. So I would like to have seen how Gears is changing. And I'm not asking for a 15-minute gameplay demo here. If you're going out there and you're telling people Gears is different, that we're opening it up, we're doing things differently than we've ever have done before in the campaign, well then show it to me. Show me what do you mean? How's it any different? Now, of course, you can make the argument, well, maybe they don't want to ruin the surprise. Which I get, because that's also something I thought about. Maybe they're so confident in the campaign, they don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody. So they're like, you know what? We'll kind of reveal maybe a couple things here to get people really excited right before the release. Is that a possibility? 100%. But then I also worry it's like Microsoft also recently released Crackdown 3, and they basically didn't show Crackdown 3 at all before launch. And it was just like, yeah, and we all know how Crackdown 3 kind of came out. So when I see, Rod Ferguson want to talk about everything except the campaign, I think to myself, are they hiding it for whatever reason? Is it not as good as they think? Is it like perhaps shorter than they think? I don't know. Like, but I also think, on the opposite end, like maybe they just want people to be really surprised and how different it is. So they want to hold that kind of, card in their pocket for longer. It's entirely possible. But I tell you, seeing a CGI trailer for a new mode, which I have no problem with. Like, you put a new mode in Gears, a new co-op mode that seems like it could be pretty cool. I have no problem whatsoever with the new mode. But you can debut the new mode at any point in time. Yeah, I don't understand the need to be like, okay, here's E3, here's a CGI trailer for new said mode. Like, that's not what, well, I don't want to speak for everybody, but my interest in Gears is strictly the campaign and the Horde. So I wanted to see what they've been talking about for the last couple years, how it's different and why it's different, and let me show you something to basically say we're not blowing smoke up your ass.
And people in chat were saying like you're bitching about WWE superstars, but you were marking out for Keanu. The difference there is Keanu's actually in the fucking game.
That's true.
He's actually a main character in the game. And in addition to that, Keanu's way cooler than WWE superstars. I'm sorry, guys. So it's automatically not hypocrisy. So sorry about that.
Yeah. Keanu's in the game,
and
so
and also it's like I don't really. It wasn't the fact the celebrities were there that were problematic. What was problematic is that they were like, these guys are going to get to play it, and these guys are going to get to see it, but you're not going to get to see it. Sorry. Or unless you want to see it, you've got to head over to Mixer and give us some extra money, or give us some extra time. It wasn't a case of it was just the delivery of it was just wrong. And then I think they followed that up with the Elite controller, right?
Yes, they
Like,
followed that up with the Elite controller. Shout out to
which
James
I just want
James
to
Shields.
I
And,
just want to take a moment, Rand, to pat
okay.
myself on the back for the Elite controller because
Mhm.
we leaked the dock, the internal battery, the Bluetooth in 2017, and everyone said I was crazy for saying it'd have an internal battery, and a lot of people don't like that, but I was totally right. I got it right, Rand. So can we have a round of applause for me?
There you go. Round of applause for Jez. They showed the new trailer for the Xbox Elite Wireless Series 2. Shout out to James Shields for keeping that one a secret. It looks great. That's coming out on November 4th for like $180. I have mine pre-ordered. I need a new controller. I wasn't going to buy another Elite because of problems they had with the first one. I swear, though, if this one has the same problem as the last one, there's going to be hell to play. Like breaking apart and stuff. So I pre-ordered it. Pixelbit G says, "How much do we know about God of War before it released? Not a heck of a lot, buddy. Let's hope it's just not trash."
That's the thing, though. Sony has earned that that respect. You know, they have earned the sort of the sense that they're gonna release high quality games, whereas Microsoft lately, this whole gen, has sort of generally released disappointing games. Like a lot of people were disappointed with Halo 5. A lot of people were disappointed with Gears 4 and didn't think it was that great. I love Gears 4, but it didn't like blow the world up, you know. And then you got things like Recore, which you know a lot of people were disappointed with. Then you got things like State of Decay, which were janky, and Sea of Thieves, which is lacking content. So when they don't show gameplay content, where if Sony doesn't show gameplay content, it's kind of like no big deal because they've earned the reputation for having high quality games. Whereas Microsoft not showing gameplay content makes you wonder, are they hiding something? You know? So
I don't really think like when I talk about this stuff, I don't really think about what Sony does or what Microsoft was doing, right? Like God of War was shown twice at E3 and they had pretty lengthy trailers. One of them was like a gameplay. The first time they showed it was a gameplay demo which looked very similar to what they showed. But then like in the lead up to launch, they had like lengthy campaign demos and a whole bunch of different stuff and all these different previews. Um
there was
I
a
don't know,
lot of
like
content out there for God of War.
there was. I mean, yes, the God of War is obviously like also a 20 to 30 hour game. A lot of
The thing
secrets.
is, it's not just Microsoft's fault, right? It's like Anthem is still fresh in my mind too, as a game that I was excited for and looked cool in its trailers, but ultimately was totally fail, you know. And so there's that sort of like, and Fallout 76 too. There's like this sort of air of distrust about video game marketing right now. So like I would have preferred a little bit more transparency, I think. That's all. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't really think what in the terms of like Gears of War and God of War, it's not really Sony versus Microsoft. It's like it's what they've shown. Like Gears 5 comes out in 3 months, and you've seen a 2 minute cutscene last year, another 2 minute cutscene this year, some quickly cut gameplay, and that's it. That maybe they'll, I don't know. It just the amount of footage you've seen for both is one was a lot, one was a little, but Gotham guy, he says, "Come on, Randall, Crackdown 3 and Gears 5 are literally apples to oranges. Be patient, it's going to be awesome." I mean, I hope it's awesome. I really do, but I mean, I made that video, and I really do think Gears 5 is going to be, way better than 4. It's going to be great. There are the rumors that it has 20 times like larger campaign maps and various different kind of biomes and stuff, like DT says. I'm just kind of curious to why it wasn't shown, why they felt that the need to highlight a CGI new mode. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It
But
created a question in my mind, like why didn't they show it?
yeah,
And I
and
was
we'll
thinking about that instead of watching the show. I
right.
don't know.
Then they showed off a trailer for Dying Light 2, the Forza Horizon Lego DLC, which came out already on June 13th. A trailer for Gears Pop. State of Decay 2 showed back up with more DLC. And then Phil came out and talked about Phantasy Star Online 2, which a lot of people freaked out about because, like, oh my God, Phantasy Star Online 2. Like, like, I don't know what to say. I'm not into Phantasy Star. Smilegate. Phil started talking about this partnership with a legendary PC developer with 650 million people, and I could see everybody in the audience, and I was talking to people in party chat. We're trying to figure out what it was, and he was like, "Smilegate and Crossfire X is coming to Xbox," and I was just like, "Who?
I've never
What?
heard of that game.
Who's Smilegate? Crossfire X, huh?" But they're more of a. I guess Crossfire X is kind of like a CS:GO for the Korean market, so I guess that's coming over. Tales of Arise, which leaked beforehand, looks kind of cool. Borderlands 3, which comes out September. That trailer actually got me interested. Elden Ring.
When you just to interject, when you're running back through all this list,
Mm-hmm.
there's a common theme that keeps popping up, right?
What's
Is
that?
that there are so many, there's such a huge diversity of games, a very specific sort of isolated markets. Like you've got Age of Empires DE, like it doesn't have broad appeal, but it's got its huge dedicated fans. Crossfire X does nobody in the West heard of it, but it's got its like super dedicated market in Asia or wherever. And Flight Simulator as well. Maybe doesn't have the broad appeal with Xbox gamers, but it's still got its super dedicated market and stuff like that. It really did feel like a really diverse content spread that maybe has very isolated appeal for each individual market. Like I can't see like an Age of Empires fan necessarily caring about Gears of War escape mode, maybe. I don't know. Do you know what I'm getting at? Am I
Yeah, I
making
mean, I
sense?
do.
Like
Yeah.
Fantasy Star Online as well. Like super dedicated, passionate fan base for that franchise. But I think like there isn't a lot of crossover. Like there was a lot of diversity and variety, but not a huge amount of Xbox core stuff, I think is probably what I'd call it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, then they showed off Elden Ring, which is the new game from Some Software with George R. R. Martin doing some kind of consulting work. CGI trailer, which, like I said, first time showing the game, I'm totally fine with. Your first time showing the game, I'm cool with CGI trailers. I'm not cool with CGI trailers 3 months to release. Not at all. Sorry. That's just kind of how I feel. So still looking forward to that. No date. Don't even know if it's next year or 2021 or whatever. And then Phil basically came out to end the show. xCloud, which is gonna have basically two things. Like one's xCloud, which is streaming from their servers, which has a fee, which more than likely is going to be Game Pass Ultimate. If I had to make a guess today, is that they'll include the xCloud streaming in Game Pass Ultimate.
I think you're right.
Just add value to that subscription, right?
Yep.
And there's also console streaming, which is what Sony has been doing for quite some time now with remote play, where it turns your own console that you own into a remote server that you can access for free, so you don't have to pay the subscription if you don't want to. And the public trials are coming in October, and there's been a lot of talk, a lot of articles written about the latency of xCloud. Some people say it's really great and it's a total game changer. Some people say like there is some noticeable latency, but most of the articles seem like, yeah, they're really impressed by what xCloud has to offer. I know you got your hands on it, right? And you became a true believer.
I became a true believer. Like I got my hands on with Project xCloud running on a Samsung Galaxy 10, I think. And I think it was a Galaxy 10. And it was running off the Microsoft Theater Wi-Fi, which admittedly is pretty powerful Wi-Fi. But then the kicker was that it was streaming from a data center 400 miles away, which was shocking considering how little latency there was. I was like, I mean, yeah, you can still tell that there's some latency, like if you want to nitpick it, right? But it was totally playable. I think like Matt Brown, my colleague, put it best when he said like I was able to hit every single active reload in Gears without any issues because the latency was so perfect, And there was artifacting sometimes around the edge of the screen, But that was it. Those were the only issues. Like, it was rock solid and it worked super well. Like, the only other issue I had with it was the accessories attached to the controller that attach your controller to the phone were garbage. They were so cheap and plasticky and crappy. And I think that's what'll kill it. Not having good accessories, not having a good tactile experience. And but hopefully Microsoft's heard the criticisms about that loud and clear, and I think they have. I think they have. Like Civic78 in chat says, totally playable isn't good enough for me. I mean, I'm honestly I'm downplaying it. Like I'm just saying, like, it was playable, you know. Like, and Heath Stevens says xCloud is no better than PlayStation Now. xCloud is literally 1,000 years ahead of PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now is a joke. It is a joke. So, like, I don't even consider PlayStation Now to be competition for xCloud. Like, PlayStation Now is more like a toy or like a little experiment compared to xCloud. xCloud's the real deal, man. I've tried both, and I wouldn't even compare them. I would laugh. I laugh at the comparison between PlayStation Now and xCloud. But having said that, PlayStation Now will soon run on the same technology as xCloud, so they should sort of match up, you know, eventually. So there is that. So yeah, PlayStation Now isn't a joke if you've got good internet. Well, I've got 200 meg down and 20 meg up, and if PlayStation Now doesn't work on 200 meg down, then it's a joke. I'm sorry, it's a joke. I played it on. See, people are getting triggered now, but I'm just telling the truth, you know.
But Garrett just called you out. He says UWP was the real deal at one point to you, Jazz. But Garrett also called me out and got some of my predictions for E3 were wrong. But he doesn't mean in a mean way though, Jazz. But
UWP is like, I never said UWP would overtake Win32. I think you'd have to be insane to have thought that. But Microsoft isn't stopping UWP. You know, they're not going to start making games for Win32 native out of the gate. Like, Gears 5 will be on the Microsoft Store as a UWP game. So, I don't know.
Here's the thing about streaming. I'm interested in checking it out just to see if the technology works, but I am not going to be one of those people who is like, all right, I'm out and about. Let me play some Xbox on my phone. I don't want to play. Maybe I'm the minority here. Maybe I'm the majority. I have. Oh God, people give me. I have a great TV. All right, I got a 55 inch LG OLED, right? That I bought, and yes, it's one of the best purchases I ever made because it makes games look really good. I do not want to go from that TV to my iPhone XR and play it on there. I'm just sorry, I don't. Sure, I'll check out the tech to see if it's working or not. Like, I am interested in that, but I don't want to play these games on these mobile phones. Like, I don't want to play touchscreen on these mobile phones.
Well, dude, that's what I'm talking about. When I talk about the I talk about the whole the issues with how do I say it? Like, the issues with the controller connecting to the phone, that's where it'll die, because it doesn't give you a tactile experience. It doesn't. It's really lame. You know, it doesn't feel good to play on this plasticky accessory that's wobbling around while you're holding your controller. Like, the Switch feels good because it's designed for that. Phones aren't designed to run 360 games. And that's, even though the video stream's really good, I don't want to play Gears of War with a touchscreen. It's not going to feel good. I don't want to play with a phone docked onto my Xbox controller with a crappy piece of plastic holding it together, wobbling around. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
you know?
like Stu Jersey says in chat, I'll play on my phone sitting in an airport or something nice option to have. Okay, I can see that. Like, yeah, if you're going on a trip, you have the phone, you have the controller, you playing on the airplane or whatever. I get that. I totally would use the same too, but like, I just don't see, like, out and about, you know, doing whatever, just be like, I'm waiting in line in traffic. Let me just bust out a game of Gears 5 or whatever. And I understand that it's not a replacement. Black Eye says rant. I get it. Phil said that too. I've been saying that it's not replacing the console. I'm just even I'm just saying I don't think I'm going to use it very much outside of checking to see if the technology works. I understand that everybody's different. Maybe there are some people that want to play on their phone, that want to play on their iPad, that are, at work or whatever, and want to be able to play their stuff. I get it, and it's a great option to have. I'm just not, for me, streaming doesn't do much, and just having the option to have it really doesn't do much for me. But that's just me. That may not be for everybody else. I get it. But that's the xCloud stuff. And then Phil went in.
Is, like, there are gonna be like APIs which let developers adapt their UI for a phone and add like special touch controls for a phone. But the thing is, I don't see many developers outside of Microsoft First Party actually bothering to do that. It's like how Microsoft now lets Win32 games run on PC with Xbox achievements. Most developers aren't even bothering to put Xbox achievements in their Game Pass for PC games, or well, about half of them. There's just no achievements there. They've just literally taken the Steam package of the game, dumped it on the Microsoft Store, and just left it at that. They haven't put any Xbox. So, like, a lot of the games that will run on xCloud, like Microsoft might use the API to have like condensed UIs and have like better controls for touch and stuff like that. I don't think most developers are going to bother. So, like, I don't think like xCloud is going to be. I don't think as good as xCloud's video stream is. I don't think it's going to be a win out of the gate unless they can make it intuitive with the tactile controls, and also make sure that they actually have games that utilize the APIs properly, rather than just having like trying to make a Xbox game run on a tiny screen that isn't designed for that.
I will say though, I think the way Xbox is doing their streaming approach is a million times better than how Stadia is doing it. Like a million times better. I after seeing like what Microsoft is doing with, hey, you have this console streaming, the remote play, and you have xCloud, and xCloud is more than likely going to be in subscription, but you can probably assume if you subscribe to it, you're also going to get all those games in Game Pass you'll be able to stream. Plus, more than likely, you buy a game, especially from Xbox, where you can then play on your console offline if you want to, and then take it on the go. It is so much a better solution to Google that I can't understate that. Like, I think the xCloud thing is just going to destroy Stadia. Dark Times says it in chat. Stadia's trash. And after seeing some of the stuff that they're doing with, I completely agree. Like, I don't know what the heck Stadia is doing. But obviously that's more of a play for years from now than like, oh, we're going to dominate this year. But yeah, I'll take xCloud over Stadia. And it's funny because Sony chose xCloud as well in their memorandum of understanding.
You have to remember that. That's the real thing, is like PlayStation could have gone with Google for this tech, but they chose Microsoft, And when PlayStation Now gets on Azure for its backend and fobs off whatever they got now, Stadia will be a footnote. It'll be all about PlayStation Now, and it'll be all about xCloud, and no one will remember Stadia existed. Because for Stadia, the problem with Stadia is that, and they do have a lot of leverage in the sense that Google has YouTube they can leverage. Google has, the search results they can abuse. They can do all sorts of tricks to try and get people to use Stadia over xCloud. And funnily enough, the European Union just skewered Google with another antitrust ruling. And when I booted my phone up this morning, I got a message saying, do you know there are other browsers out there besides Chrome? Why don't you try one of these instead? Because the EU has forced them to be more competitive with other browsers and other search engines. So, but the biggest problem with Stadia for me, and like full disclosure, everyone here probably should know that I just hate Google in general. I think they're a shitty, shady company. I think they treat their YouTube partners like crap, and I think the YouTube platform has become a breeding ground for just fake information and BS, and Google hasn't done anywhere near enough what they need to do to address any of the problems with their awful platform. So I hate Google, full disclosure. But like genuinely, when you look at comparing Stadia and xCloud or Stadia and PlayStation Now and xCloud, they have the content. Google doesn't have the content. They have like a few dozen games, and developers have to port their games over to their Linux backend in order to get those games. Whereas PlayStation and Xbox, they already have all those games ready to go. You know, so when PlayStation Now sorts out its backend, Stadia will be a footnote. You know, and then it'll be hopefully the competition will be between PlayStation and Xbox, as it should be. And then Google, who just want to be in, Google don't want to be in this to help improve gaming. They want to be in this because they're smelling the money that's coming out of the industry. They do not care about gaming. They haven't got any stake in improving the industry, you know.
Huh. You got to be careful though. We are on Google's platform here. If they're listening, and they might, you know. But yeah, I'm
gonna get banned from YouTube.
we don't. Yeah, I don't think Stadia is going to do much. But and then Phil came on and he started talking about Project Scarlett. You know, the console they're building for next gen. I'm happy to attack Google. I'm just, you know. It's like we're on Google services right now, bashing Google. Like it's kind of.
I use an Android phone. I can't. You can't.
I use an Android phone, but now I have an iPhone. But
like I could get an iPhone, but like you lose so much, you know. So I have to use Google phone, and it depresses me. That's why I'm mad at Microsoft for forcing me to use an Android phone because they don't want to compete with them there.
Yeah.
But you know, I just don't like the company, and I don't think they're the kind of company that you want to trust with your gaming stuff, because they're going to make you pay for the 4K stream. Like, it's really funny that Google like talked up the power of Stadia, and they were saying like, "Oh, we're more powerful than PlayStation. We're more powerful than Xbox." But to get that power, you need to subscribe and buy the games on top of that too. And I think like PlayStation Now and xCloud have a better model in the sense that they're just going to have you subscribe like Netflix. So like Google has had to invest a lot to get to where they are, whereas like Microsoft already had a lot of this infrastructure in place already, and they're just using Xbox consoles that are lying around for consoles that haven't been sold. Woo! And they're just converting them into servers now instead. So a lot of the investment from Microsoft has already been done. So
yeah. So now it's time to talk about Scarlet. Well, we're gonna give our grade here in just a second when we finish the conference. So Scarlet, they literally ran the trailer for I forgot what year it was, because I was like, wait a minute, is it 2016 and we're talking about Project Scorpio, or are we talking about Scarlet? Because they ran the same exact hype piece with almost the same exact people from the previous one, minus Todd Howard and the dude from EA who no longer works EA. We got a lot of just kind of, oh my god, the best frame rates, 120 frames and 8K capability, and oh my god, load times and SSD tech. And it was basically the same video they made 3 years ago for Scorpio, down to the letters forming in the background, right? Which I wasn't really a fan of. I don't know about you, Jez, but like, number one,
well, they do these like these gray background videos.
I know they do.
Actually aimed at developers. Like,
well, this one was aimed at one's aimed at the people watching, like the gamers. So
yeah, I know.
So there's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think like they should have had the Surface team do the sizzle for Scarlet, because
to me it just felt like, all right, well, we already did one for 2016. Let's just do it again. That's just me though. Like, I'm super excited for the new console. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted like a different approach for them to talk about it. It just kind of felt like, well, it worked in 2016 and we're going to do it again. But basically, the takeaways from Scarlet are that it's launching holiday 2020. It has 8K capability. It can go up to 120 frames. It has an SSD that it's using for like virtual RAM in some cases to lower the loading times for next gen. They mentioned like the elevator that's just loading that like Mass Effect. They mentioned ray tracing for next gen, how it's hardware accelerated, and they mentioned that it's a monster that eats monsters for breakfast. You know,
Yum.
so that's coming Halo or Holiday 2020, and then with it, of course, Halo Infinite. They showed a trailer for it. Um, I really liked the trailer. I honestly did. But then again, I'm a Halo mark. I love Halo. Halo's my favorite franchise, so it doesn't really take that much to make me excited for a new Halo game.
You like Halo more than Splinter Cell?
Yes, I like
Huh.
Halo more than pretty much everything gaming related.
Okay.
So yeah, I honestly kind of thought when Master Chief's standing at the end and the airship is like opening up and he's like, "Get ready," and he jumps out. I honestly thought there for a second they were gonna go to gameplay like really fast, like the way he says it. But then
Yeah.
it just transitioned to the title screen, and then you had the thing after. I wasn't expecting
What's the term? Blue balls?
blue balls. Yeah, I
That's what
wasn't
they're trying
expecting
to get.
gameplay from it. So that's the show. Halo Infinite closes it out, coming as a launch title with Scarlet. Um, and I have to ask you, Jez, rate the show. Now I know we were just recently on the Iron Lawrence podcast where we rated the show. So what do you think? What rating would you give the show?
Well, I give it 7 out of 10,
7
but
out of 10.
only because a like I got to get more into the stuff we were shown. I think like if I hadn't been there, it'd probably be a 6. But so because I was there, the bias is sort of pushing me up to a 7 maybe. But I think when you look at all the stuff that they did announce on paper and like lay it all out, it's really, really cool. But it just the show itself just wasn't set out very well. So that's holding me back from putting it up higher. Like the flow was bad.
Mm.
What do you think?
I mean, I kind of when I did my original day of show, like I at like a 5.56, like a 6 out of 10. Like it's kind of what you said. It was disappointing. I didn't really like the show. I mean, there's things there I liked about the show, but like altogether, it's like on paper you think the show is going to be great. They have 60 games. You have all these games from first party, but I don't know. It was more about how it was presented than what was presented that did it for me. Like uh, the lack of gameplay demos absolutely killed it for me. It killed all of E3 for me. Um, I hated that. I absolutely hated that, and I hope they don't. So I hope E3 just doesn't become a YouTube trailer playlist where it's literally just play the next trailer and play the next. It's kind of like Sony's State of Play where it's like here's 15 minutes of trailers and just a woman's robotic voice over the top. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I hope E3 just doesn't literally become here's just one trailer after another and it's just quickly cut gameplay. That just doesn't do anything for me. Um, so that's kind of my thing. Like, I know Xbox can do better, and they didn't. I didn't like the show. I don't know what else to say about it. But moving on, we're going to talk about Scarlet versus PlayStation 5. Man, it sure as hell sounds like Xbox Project Scarlet is basically the same as the PlayStation 5, doesn't it?
Yeah, seems like that. Like it's hard to know for sure what tricks they could pull to differentiate the consoles, but it does seem like we're going to be back in 2013 where they are basically similar in spec with maybe one having an edge But hopefully, Microsoft doesn't make the mistake if they are so similar that Microsoft. Can you imagine if the same thing happened again where they're really similar? Maybe PlayStation is slightly more powerful, but for some reason, Microsoft's is $100 more expensive again. Can you imagine?
That would be a disaster waiting to happen. I've thought about that. I thought about that idea. What if PlayStation's more, because there are rumors floating all around. PlayStation's more powerful than Scarlet. Scarlet's more powerful than PlayStation. Yada yada yada. But like, what if it was just a repeat of this gen? PlayStation 5's more powerful and ends up being $100 cheaper. That would, you'd be like, huh? That's
How did they
that
screw
would
this up?
be unfortunate for Xbox. I don't think that's going to happen though. But yeah,
You hope not.
listen, and I really do think that Sony stole a lot of Microsoft's thunder announcing the PlayStation 5 and what it was going to do back in April with Wired. Because you hear what the PlayStation 5 is doing, 8K, SSD loading, all that stuff, right? And Sony basically says it first, and people get really excited about it. So when Microsoft finally says something about it at E3, it's just like, ah, whatever. It's nothing new. It's the same set the PlayStation 5 has. Like it was, I think that was great strategy by, because this isn't checkers. This is chess. These companies play chess against one another, and I thought Sony kind of just won up Microsoft in that regard. Sure, they didn't have a hype video like Microsoft did, and they didn't show up to E3, but they basically stole all of Microsoft's thunder back in April. And then they talked about it again in an investors meeting and actually showed off the differences between the loading and Spider-Man on the Pro versus Spider-Man on, you know, the dev kit or whatever. And you got people talking about it again. And you know what? I bet you we hear more about the PlayStation 5 before we hear about Xbox Scarlet, because I wouldn't be surprised if they start talking about, you know, PlayStation 5 maybe at Gamescom, perhaps at Paris Games Week or PSX.
Yeah, there's like loads of times Sony could talk about it, even though like they didn't show up to E3. There's still plenty of ways Sony could build up.
But they even though Sony wasn't there, they were still present. I mean, Square Enix's conference was basically the PlayStation 4 show.
Yeah.
I mean, almost everything at the PlayStation conference was, or the Square Enix conference was PlayStation games, you know? So they still had a huge presence despite not being there. And I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently, but I definitely think Sony stole some of Microsoft's thunder with how they revealed PlayStation 5 first. Because like when you hear it from Microsoft, it's just all like, oh yeah, it sounds exactly like the PlayStation 5. You know, which now it comes into, well, pricing now becomes insanely important, because if they're both the same, you know, then whoever kind of, you know, has the same price is going to win. But that wasn't it, because there was always supposed to be 2 SKUs for the next gen Xbox, Jez. Right?
Yes.
You reported this first. I know a lot of people credited the Brad Sams, but you were the first one out there.
I think we talked about Scarlet back in 2016 or 17. Yeah, it was actually Zach Bowden on Windows Central who first got the first Scarlet information, and then we got the whole Lockhart Anaconda thing, roughly the same time as Brad, and then a bunch of other people were talking about it. But now it looks like Lockhart is dead, and Lockhart was supposed to be the lower end SKU, where Anaconda was supposed to be the higher end SKU. And I think what the original plan was to have the PS5 in the middle of these 2 price points. But it's looking like maybe the PS5 is going to be more powerful than they expected. And if the PS5 matches Anaconda, it kind of makes Lockhart completely redundant.
Yeah, I mean, there is that case. There's like what Digital Foundry was saying in their videos. So let's just kind of backtrack. So Xbox Scarlet was the code name for the family of next gen devices that Xbox was building, right?
Yes.
It was Xbox Scarlet. Anaconda was the premium one, the one that was supposed to be, you know, like super or more expensive, but have all the bells and whistles, do 4K 60, et cetera, et cetera. and then Lockhart was supposed to be like a $300 one that was supposed to do 1080p 60. It was supposed to be an entry level device for someone just new to the Xbox ecosystem. And yeah, everybody kind of thought PlayStation, 5 would kind of sit in the middle and not be as powerful as Anaconda, but be more powerful than Lockhart, et
Yeah,
cetera, et cetera.
I thought they were basically going for what they've got now, which is an X, the PS4 Pro in the middle, and then an S. I thought that's basically what they were going for again. And yeah, it's doesn't look like it's happening now. Now I haven't got any explicit information that says it isn't happening. So I haven't heard that it's definitely not happening. But like Brad Sams is saying it isn't happening. Digital Foundry say they heard it's not happening, but that it was real. So I think, and Microsoft's certainly talking like it's not happening when they talked about Scarlet as a single console. So you can just presume for now that Lockhart is dead. And if Anaconda and PS5 are very similar in specs, I think that's a good thing. Like Lockhart would have been dead on arrival because it would have been the conversation would have been PS5 versus Anaconda. Lockhart wouldn't have even been a factor in the discussion. So
well, also like what Digital Foundry and Brad were saying was that a lot of the developers were giving feedback to Microsoft were saying, all right, number one, this makes our jobs a little bit harder, right? And number two, we're just going to make the game for Lockhart and scale up, which apparently Microsoft wasn't a fan of because they want the games to look super pretty for Anaconda to go against the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
And you get the impression from Digital Foundry and Brad Sams that like Microsoft might be worried that their games wouldn't look or run as well if the developers were targeting the Lockhart instead of targeting Anaconda.
yeah.
Anaconda. So that could be another reason why. Like they also say xCloud could be a potential reason why. Like why need for a $300 a Lockhart when you have xCloud, which streams everything, and most people own phones and tablets and stuff.
Maybe they just thought that xCloud wouldn't be ready or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely weird because everybody was like, "Hey, this is happening." You said it was, this was going on. Brad Sam said it was going on. Cloberl, and then all of a sudden, like we've seen the roadmap, and then all of a sudden, like it's just one, which I actually think it's better. I actually think this is better in a lot of different ways because now you're going to have a singular console that developers can target to, right? It's also you can have a singular marketing message, which let's be honest here, Microsoft's marketing and their messaging this gen hasn't been the best, and now you don't need to fracture it with two consoles and two different messages. Now you can have the one singular message. So you have developers making games for one SKU instead of two SKUs, and then they can market this one. So honestly, to me, it's better this
Yeah,
way.
I think it's better too. Like I can see, but you know what makes me wonder, like why they initially decided to do this. And I was hearing like years ago that there was a pretty I don't know what to call it. There were pretty heated debates about whether to go with a double SKU or not at Redmond, and it looks like for whatever reason now they've decided not to go with that. And I'm wondering now if basically the whole point of them going for Lockhart wasn't necessarily because they wanted to offer something more entry level, like just for the sake of it. My thinking is, mate, what if the next gen consoles are more expensive than people are probably expecting? What if they're like $600? What if both of them are $600? And Microsoft was intimidated by that leap, and they thought, well, if we've got to make this one 600, if to get ray tracing we have to make this $600, let's have a cheaper version too. Like, do you think that because they've got SSDs in them, they're gonna have hardware accelerated ray tracing? This tech is not cheap. It ain't cheap. Like SSDs have come down in price, but ray tracing is literally like cutting edge right now. You
Right.
can't do ray tracing well with a cheap PC. You need a monster that eats monsters to make ray tracing a
That
thing.
eats monsters for breakfast.
That
What
eats
if
monsters for breakfast.
what if Xbox Scarlet eats monsters for breakfast except for the PS5?
Well, that's one rumor that who was it now? I can't remember who it was. Was it an IGN editor who said that
It
he
was the
heard?
Game Informer editor Andrew Rayner and also Colin Moriarty said that they heard people have dev kits said that the PlayStation 5 one is a bit more powerful than the Anaconda one or
Yeah, so
Scarlet or Dante or whatever the hell it's called.
the I've heard the Xbox One Scarlet dev kit is called Dante, codename Dante, and Brad heard it was called Danta, but it is Dante. I think Brad might have had a typo. Sorry, Brad, but and but then Albert Pinello, who now works at Amazon, who
Yes.
used to work for
Mhm.
Xbox. By the way, I want to apologize in advance if I screw up any of my words because I am getting seriously tired now. It's midnight. But
Uh-oh.
Albert Pinello, who used to work for Xbox and now works for Amazon, he came out and said that there's no way the dev kits right now are final spec. You know that they're the code the hardware is not committed to silicon and stuff like that, or the chips rather. So I don't think they can know if I don't think they can know for sure if PS5 is more powerful than Scarlet based on what the current dev kits are like. Because like I know, for example, the operating system for Scarlet isn't even finished. So
I mean, we are still a year and a half away from both these consoles coming out.
yes.
Presumably. I mean, I know PlayStation said not in the next 12 months, which would end in April, but I think everybody assumes that that system's going to come out in the holidays. Same thing with the Xbox. So we're still a year and a half before release. It's just really interesting seeing instead of being a 2 SKU approach from Microsoft, it's now going to be a 1 SKU approach. So now, power becomes more in play because before, like you said, people assumed that Scarlet or Anaconda was just going to be way more powerful than PlayStation 5. Now it seems like maybe PlayStation went there because maybe people thought, you know what, Sony had such good gen this entire gen, like really like over 100 million sold, and a lot of it had to do with the price point, right? $400, such a good price point that most people.
Sony crushed it, man. They set the tone. They
Yep.
did everything right. They did every single thing.
Well, they had
Right.
help from Microsoft doing everything wrong
Yeah,
as
that
well. But hey,
definitely
that's
helped.
that's business sometimes, right? You got to take wins where you can get it. But so everybody assumed PlayStation would be like, all right, we're gonna do $400 again because it worked so well. And then now you hear like Pactor saying it's gonna be $800, but he's clearly joking. But
Was he joking? Because
oh, he was joking.
loads of websites ran with that.
And loads of websites didn't watch the video where Jeff Keighley was like, say something wild so people will talk about this. And he's like, something wild? Okay, how about the PlayStation 5 being $800? So yeah, he was completely joking because he actually did put out his prediction. He thinks the systems are going to be $500, but he thinks that Microsoft is going to take $100 loss and sell for 400, and that Sony will follow suit. So he thinks these are both $500 systems, and that both Sony and Microsoft will take a $100 loss and sell for 400 apiece. I think he's wrong. I think both these systems are $500. Like,
yeah, I think both these systems are $500. Like, we keep coming back to iPhones. Like, Apple's selling $1,000 phones now. The high end Samsung Galaxy Note 10 is going to be $2,000. I think as gamers get older, they've got more disposable income. I think Microsoft and Sony can get away with $500 consoles at launch.
yeah, and
Easily.
Expert on C says, I hope they are the same price so you Xbots see that PlayStation will still sell more. Yeah, of course. I have a video saying that PlayStation 5 is easily going to outsell the next gen Xbox. At $500, both of them, if they're both like $500 and the same power, 100% the PlayStation 5 is going to outsell the Xbox.
I would say that
100%.
even if I think even if Xbox has a slight power edge, I think PlayStation will still outsell the Xbox because it's we're in a situation now where this isn't a regular console transition. A lot of those Sony fans are digitally locked in. They are locked in, and the PlayStation 5 is going to be backwards compatible with PS4. Every PlayStation fan and every Xbox fan who has a digital game library, they ain't going to switch platform and lose all those digital games. They're going to stick with the platform that they have all their content on. So I don't think like Xbox can be so much more powerful that it could get someone to switch for. And it's not like people are saying in chat, it's I'm locked into a brand. It's not a case of being locked into a brand. It's a case of being locked in to your digital library of content that you own. I don't own a single physical game. I ain't giving up my Xbox games for no one. Like what is Sony gonna do? Is Sony gonna let me transfer my 400 Xbox games to PlayStation? I don't think so. So there's literally nothing Sony could do
Jez, what
to
about
get me.
Game Pass? A couple people saying, what about Game Pass?
Game Pass doesn't have the latest games in it. It has a load of old games in it. And it's not and like the people who buy consoles day one, they ain't interested in old games.
Well, Game Pass definitely has. I mean, they're trying to get more content launching day one for sure. Microsoft's own content plus a lot of third. But I wonder if subscription models are going to become so prevalent next gen that everybody has one. You already saw Square Enix talking about a subscription model, right?
Yeah.
Ubisoft has their own. EA has their own. Sony has their own in PlayStation Now, which I think they'll do more with next gen. Xbox has their own. Like everything's going to be subscription services. But yeah, like why would a PlayStation user get an Xbox for next gen? If Sony's still providing them with everything they want,
Mm.
which is those Sony exclusives, and if you can take all your previous games that you bought with you, like you're gonna get a PlayStation 5. Same thing for most Xbox fans as well. Like they have all their games that they bought. They like what Xbox is doing, Gears and Halo and stuff, so they'll buy an Xbox. Um yeah, like I still think if they're both the same price and the same power, I think PlayStation 5 wipes the floor with the Xbox,
Yeah, so
especially
do I.
worldwide. Worldwide, it's not even a contest.
Dude,
Um
Xbox doesn't exist in Germany. No one here has an Xbox. Everyone's got a PlayStation.
yeah,
Like if you go into in where I live, you go into a shop, you can buy Steam cards, you can buy Android cards, you can buy every kind of digital store cards, PlayStation, Switch. You can't buy Xbox cards because no one owns an Xbox here. PlayStation has completely crushed it in Europe, and everywhere pretty much. But
well, yeah.
like again, it's and then you got the whole digital locking coming into play. You've got the expectation that Sony will deliver great quality exclusives, whereas Microsoft is years away from delivering that expectation, frankly. So all Microsoft is doing right now is serving its existing customer base, the people that are already on Xbox, the people that are locked in on Xbox, and if they want, that's why they're going so hard on PC and they're going so hard on XCloud is because they've pretty much maximized what they can do with consoles. I think I don't think they can't go further with consoles right now. Like it's going to take ages for them to deliver the kind of games that the core wants that will get them to like take another platform seriously, which is why they have to expand horizontally to new markets that are untapped, like streaming and PC subscription services, of which there aren't really any. So it's kind of like it's almost a redundant point to talk about PlayStation 5 versus Xbox the 3 or whatever, because the battle's won. So Sony has won the console war. That's the end of it. Sony won it. It's their market now. That's the way I see it.
Well, Microsoft is obviously looking for the PC space for growth. They feel that having their games on Steam will be a huge boon for them and get,
It will.
yeah, which I totally agree. Like, I think Halo
Our
Infinite,
biggest preview from E3 by a mile was Halo Reach on PC.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, Halo's going to be massive on PC.
it
Gears,
is.
Gears, I'm not really too sure about, but they are going to tap into that Steam market, the Steam user base.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you read like the store page for Gears, and it's like, hey, requires Xbox Live account. Same thing with Master Chief Collection. I would imagine the same will happen with Halo Infinite. So like, you're going to be playing Halo Infinite on there, and you're going to be logged in Xbox Live, and Microsoft is going to be fine, and Halo Infinite's going to have millions upon millions of people playing day one because think about it, day one. It's going to be on the Xbox Scarlet. It's going to be on Xbox One, which they've already said, right? It's going to be in Game Pass day one, not only on console, but also on PC on Windows 10. And then it's going to be on Steam. Like Halo Infinite is going to have an insane user base the second it launches.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
they're looking for
all those systems will integrate with the Master Chief Collection too, which is going to drive engagement. And then Microsoft will turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, we've now got 80 million Xbox Live users or something, counting all the users they're getting through Steam."
Yeah, I work. Gregor Von Doon says rip day one servers. I agree. Like they better be prepared for those servers day one, because there are gonna be a lot of people, checking into that game. But Microsoft's release strategy, Jez, is. Do you think it's ambitious for what they're going to be trying to do in the future with what Matt Booty and the teams have kind of laid down with Xbox Game Pass as a driver? The idea of launching a high quality game every 3 months, so one a quarter for the foreseeable future. Is that a target that you think they can hit?
The thing
Or
is, I think Microsoft's idea of high quality is slightly different from ours. Like
okay,
as much as I love State of Decay, it is a janky ass game and not one that I would describe as being AAA quality. Microsoft considers State of Decay to be AAA. I don't personally. Like AAA means that you care about the little things, right? You care about the animations, the detailing, textures, a high quality, and stuff like that. You know, like fine dining. Like State of Decay is more like fast food. You know, I love it. I love eating it, but it's not like an experience that you're gonna remember and hold dear to your life. You know, down the line. It's not a Red Dead Redemption or a Last of Us. You know, so I don't think. I think the problem with your question is that it assumes that Microsoft can identify what a high quality game is.
well, I mean, Matt Booty said that if a game needs more time, then they're going to delay it because they have a bunch of other studios and games being worked on. That there isn't really a quota like, oh, this game needs to come out here at this moment. But I mean, he's the one who said high quality. Now, I don't know. Is State of Decay 2 considered a high quality game by Xbox? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not really sure. Is
I don't
Crackdown?
know.
I don't really know. If the model of high quality is something like Forza Horizon, which is, you know, like the best racing game, then that's great. Um, but I do like, look, all I want great games from Xbox. I think everybody in chat here will agree with that. I don't necessarily care if they're AAA or AA. I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on the AAA stuff. Like, I think there are some indie games that I played that are better than any AAA game, for example.
I
So,
mean, it doesn't. It doesn't really affect how much fun you have. Like I had a ton of fun with State of Decay 2. Like I got like 150 hours in it or something, or 100 hours, and I enjoy State of Decay 2 way more than say like Tomb Raider, which I find to be really boring and linear and formulaic. Like, and the gunplay in Tomb Raider is awful. It sure looks pretty, you know, and it has some cool like set pieces and stuff. But I'd rather play State of Decay than Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider is definitely what you'd call AAA, right? Because it has those AAA production values.
Yes,
So
100%.
it doesn't necessarily translate into what you personally find to be fun, you know. So I don't know. It's really tough because I want what I personally want. I want State of Decay's gameplay, but with high quality animations and high quality textures and stuff like that. I don't
Mhm.
know, but I don't know if we'll ever get that out of Microsoft. I don't know if we'll ever get that. You know?
I'm kind of like um I'm wondering if Microsoft will give the big game treatment to anything other than Halo, Gears, and Forza. That's kind of what I'm on the like. I think they'll give as much money as they possibly can to those three games. I'm just wondering if they will take the risk on something else that's not Halo, Gears, or Forza. I think they will with the initiative. Like I think the initiative and whatever they're doing is going to be really. You don't hire the people the initiative is hiring to make some small game. Like
It'd be so
you,
funny if like they come out with some sort of like high concept puzzle game or something.
so I think the initiative will do it. I think Obsidian, if like Outer Worlds is really good, um, I think their next project is going to be pretty big. Hellblade or the Hellblade team at Ninja Theory. I mean, they did an amazing job with a low budget and 5 years on Hellblade. Now that's kind of called like what an indie AAA. It's got really impressive graphics and stuff, but it is kind of like half walking sim, half fighter. But it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft's going to pour money into anything else that's not Halo, Gears, and Forza. Now, there's the rumored Fable and Playground Studios, but Playground Studios is a game that Microsoft has a lot of faith in. So I could definitely see them pouring a ton of money into that game, especially with the talent that they're also hiring at that studio. Um, I'm you can pretty much lock it down that Fable is going to be a big AAA production. Some studios like I don't expect much from Compulsion, to be honest with you. I don't expect much from Double Fine. I think Double Fine will be a fine studio, but they're always hell. I mean, we had
It'll be a
Banjo.
Double Fine studio.
They had Banjo announced for Smash Brothers, right? Which, by the way, I was right on that one. Jez, yeah, ran one,
Oh,
Jez
you
zero.
didn't know. You were just guessing.
What do you mean? I didn't know. I've been
You
saying the
didn't
whole time
know.
it was
You
true.
were just guessing.
Anyways, I wouldn't be surprised if Double Fine, which Psychonauts 2 is coming out next year, I wouldn't be surprised if Double Fine, goes back into Microsoft's IP and is like, let's make a new Banjo Kazooie. They'd be a good studio to make that. They make platformers.
Yeah.
In Exile, I don't really know what they're going to be doing outside of Wasteland, so I'm not really sure. I need to
In
see what they do
Exile,
next.
in Exile is kind of like they're gonna make games like Flight Simulator and Age of Empires that appeal to a very specific audience. Like Bard's Tale is like classic sort of um, grid-based first-person dungeon crawler, which ain't like it doesn't have the broadest appeal, but they'll have their fans, I think.
Yeah, and Undead Labs, like they're probably gonna make State of Decay 3, but here's the thing: State of Decay 3 better be leagues beyond what State of Decay 2 was. Like, if you're using the excuse that State of Decay 2 was in the situation it was because, well, weren't Microsoft Studio, then I better see some big improvement with State of Decay 3.
Yeah,
So you better be careful, like what you say. Not now the excuses go out the window. Like State of Decay 3 better be a marked improvement on State of Decay 2 if they're doing another one.
yeah, they've already confirmed they're gonna do another one, I think. But
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah,
fans ain't even happy with the DLC they just released, like Heartland. I don't know why, but there's people complaining about that as well now.
JD
And
Gamer says, "You ready for this, Jez?"
go on.
Says, "What if Microsoft does everything right? Can they win? $100 cheaper, more powerful system, great marketing leading up to the release, launching in all the same reasons as PlayStation, and release of AAA exclusives."
Dude, if they do all that, then maybe. But like, there ain't no way they can nail all that. There's just no way.
I
I don't think they can do that.
Okay,
They can't
are we
pull that.
talking? Okay, so here's where people kind of, I think, lose the plot a little bit. Xbox is more than just the console. Xbox is the platform. I probably need to make a video about this.
I've written an article about this. That it's
So
more than just a
if you're
console.
talking strictly, if you're just going to compare console sales to console sales, right? The Scarlet versus the PlayStation. I think being $100 cheaper and more powerful and marketing all that stuff, that'll put Xbox on the level of PlayStation. Like right there. Like those are things Xbox would need to do to convince people to pick up a PlayStation over a PlayStation, but at the same time, I think it's like one of those things where it'll be like it'll have an effect for sure, but also keep in mind like this. Keep in mind like this. Everything that Microsoft makes going forward is going to be everywhere, right? It's going to be on PC. It's going to be streamable on mobile phones. It's going to be on Steam. Who knows? I mean, Phil was talking recently about stuff on the Switch and stuff on the PlayStation, although he pretty much said no to PlayStation. Like there was, Jason Schreier at Kotaku, or maybe it was the other guy at Kotaku, Steven Totillo, asked him about, hey, if you want to put Gears on the PlayStation, and Phil was pretty much saying, if you read what Phil says, he said they would put Gears on PlayStation if they could have Xbox Live on PlayStation, which is what me and Jez have been saying forever. Like, if Sony would allow Xbox Live on PlayStation, 100% Gears and Halo would be there. Would you agree, Jez?
Yes.
100%. Sure. But Sony's not going to do that, because why would they? So those games will never be on PlayStation. Nintendo's a different story, right? So
yeah, the Xbox API is coming to Nintendo Switch first with Cuphead, and we've heard rumors about Ori, stuff like that.
Yeah. So everything is going to be everywhere for Microsoft. So I think that leads to less sales of the console for next gen. I don't think Scarlet sells as much as the Xbox One, because some people will opt to play it on PC. Some people will opt to play it on their phones or whatever. So I don't think the console sales are going to be that much better depending on the price. Because Microsoft, I mean, Phil's even saying, like, he has interviews out there basically saying that the console sales aren't the business, which people misconstrue, right, Jez?
Yeah.
He's saying, like, the console sales isn't the profitable part of the business. Obviously, if you're making a device of any business, the sales of said device are extremely important. So they make money based on services and subscriptions, not necessarily selling of consoles. But of course, the more consoles you sell, the more people you can actually sell subscriptions and services to. But since Microsoft is putting their stuff everywhere, that does, like, they can reach those people without them needing to buy a console, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is that if they did all that, JD, if they had a cheaper console which was more powerful and all that stuff, I think in North America, yeah, they could probably outsell the PlayStation. But worldwide, no. I don't think so. I think worldwide is a lost cause. Japan, the Asian market's a lost cause. A lot of continental Europe is a lost cause. Maybe they make a resurgence in the UK because price is really important. So yes, I do think they would, it would be very, very tight in the United States, and it would be very tight in the UK, but they would still lose out in most of Europe and Asia. But that's kind of my thing. But I mean, look at what the PlayStation 3 did a couple gens ago. Launched a year after Xbox, was $200 more expensive at $600. Didn't have any games for like 3 years. And eventually, when it was all said and done, they sold more PlayStation 3s than 360s.
Yep.
PlayStation is just a game, like it's a worldwide gaming brand where Xbox really isn't at this point. Now, could xCloud change that? Could the focus on PC and Steam change all that? Yeah, they'll probably get more, people like looking more favorably on the brand. Z Black Rider says Europe was not a lost cause. Release a custom Cyberpunk console. Xbox wins. While a custom Cyberpunk console would be pretty awesome, I don't really think people would necessarily buy. Like, I don't think that would move the needle. Needle. God, I can't speak anymore. Probably because it's getting late. We've been doing the podcast for a while, but it was a lot to talk about in the podcast.
It
So
was post A3 show has to be a big one, you know.
yeah,
But I don't know. The thing about Scarlet and PlayStation 5 is we don't know the full specs yet. We don't know what features will differentiate the consoles. This generation, we've had things like backwards compatibility, getting differentiation on Xbox, and we've had like Game Pass and stuff like that. But like that gap's going to close. Like PlayStation 4 is going to have its own 5 is going to have its own backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4. Sony's going to be ramping up PlayStation Now and stuff like that. And people are digitally locked in, so it's kind of like it's a completely different generational leap. We just need to wait and see, I think, really at this point, like how it all goes down and how Microsoft leverages xCloud to try and get people into the ecosystem and stuff like that. Because I think like xCloud could hook people into the ecosystem and then maybe lead people into buying up the consoles and stuff like that. But it all depends on how it's positioned and stuff like that. Like I remember at the start of this gen, Major Nelson said Microsoft was playing the long game. I mean, that is an incredibly long game to play. But we've been writing about xCloud since 2014, 2013. Like xCloud was originally concepted for the 360. That's how long they've been working on it. So I think things are going to be weird next gen. We just need to wait and see. Rand,
you want to take a couple questions before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's take some questions, guys. Thanks for sticking with us
Yep.
on this post E3
Long
show.
show. We'll have to talk about. If you have any questions, hit us up in chat. We'll make sure to answer them quickly before we get out of here. I know it's late for Jazz, so thanks to like the 550 people that were here. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. We really appreciate that. We appreciate everybody listening to this later on Google Play and iTunes and stuff. We got that amazing review the other day on iTunes, which made Jez really happy. Made me really happy as well.
If you're listening on iTunes, drop us a review.
Yeah.
It helps us scale up the rankings or whatever. But Rand, the first question I see here is what do you think about Remedy potentially working with Sony? There's that whole rumor now.
I mean, the rumor is only out there because they visited Naughty Dog, right? Like, look, I'll just say this. Remedy fits in with what Sony does. Remedy's almost the type of games Remedy makes is the type of games that Sony makes. And Control's launching in August. Remedy's also doing the single player for Crossfire X. I could totally see, absolutely, Sony buying Remedy. I don't really need a rumor to tell me that could potentially happen. I see what they're tweeting. I see the googly eyes they're making at each other. I see that they're winding down production on a game. Yeah, I could totally see Sony buying Remedy, and I would not be surprised if it happened. 100%. Do I think it's going to happen? I mean, I don't know. These acquisitions are. I mean, Sony themselves said they are looking to grow as well. So
yeah,
it kind of makes sense. Remedy does exactly what Sony likes. Those strong single player AAA focused games. So I would not be surprised at all. I mean, Quantum Break, Alan Wake. I mean, you can almost say they're PlayStation games on Xbox. So yeah, I could see that happening. Shout out to the Saji bot for another super chat. Thanks for the show. Oh look, money. Thank you for the support. It means a lot. Hope you enjoyed the show.
He's an awesome dude.
Yes. Face always gives me these questions. He loves this stuff. Why is Phil Spencer saying console sales don't matter when they make $3 billion from Xbox Live Gold on consoles, since that's the only place where you have to pay for it?
I think, like, the thing is, this question comes from the headlines that outlets spin from what he said. Obviously, console sales matter because that's where you get the services. But I think, like, the whole idea that console sales are the only thing that matters is not what he's saying is console sales alone aren't indicative of a healthy business. A lot of fanboys go around saying like if Xboxes aren't selling as much as PlayStation, that means Xbox is dying. No. Xbox is extremely healthy business. They make billions of dollars on their services and they monetize their existing audience very well. That's all he's saying. All he's saying is like we can have a healthy business without being as big as PlayStation. You know, that's pretty much all he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, he basically said console sales are not the profitable part of the business. I mean, that's true. Anybody who knows the industry knows
It's
that.
like it's just like the printing industry. Like you sell the hardware printer at a loss and you make the money back on proprietary ink, you know. So like you buy a printer for $100, but then like over the course of 5 years, you spent like $2,000 on ink. That's how they make their money. And instead of the ink, Microsoft's selling us the games. Or, you know, they even do ink subscription services now. You can even get like Xbox Game Pass for ink for your HP printer. Because that's ultimately where they're making the money. So yeah.
I mean, he's basically just saying that console sales aren't the profitable part of the business, which people consider like, oh, they don't matter. Of course they matter, because the more consoles you sell, the more subscriptions you can have. Xbox Live Gold, PlayStation Plus. You more consoles you sell, the more games you sell, so you can take a bigger cut. He just said that's not the profitable part of the business, and people like to run. Well, here's the thing. Of course they matter. Console sales matter. It's just to Xbox, who is also putting a lot of their stuff on PC and mobile, it matters less and less to what they're going for, or what Microsoft is a software and service companies. They're a subscription company. They sell their services. Like, their idea of making money is, here's a subscription, you pay for it, and you pay for it in perpetuity, right? Because xCloud is, their streaming solution, they need a console, so they built Scarlet and they have the X. And of course, they put a lot of R&D into Scarlet. You got to make that money back somehow. And yes, the people who are going to buy Scarlet are your super hardcore, the ones who are really engaged in the ecosystem, the ones that are going to spend all the money. So of course they matter. It's just not the profitable part of the business. People get like, I don't know why people. I mean, it makes a good clickbait headline, doesn't it, Jez?
It does.
Phil Spencer,
does
Xbox boss, says console sales don't matter, when like the article doesn't really say that.
The quote is what his intent behind that quote is way more nuanced than I think a lot of outlets have given him credit for. But yeah, it is what it is.
DI Almighty Spartan God says, is Chicago pizza really pizza or lasagna? Look, I don't like Chicago pizza, so you can go as Luca that. Luca really likes Chicago style pizza. I don't.
What is Chicago style pizza?
It's like a big pizza pie. It's like, you just Google an image of Chicago pizza.
Is that like a Chicago thing, or is that like a pizza shop or something?
No, it's a Chicago thing. Some of the shops here do that. Like,
Chicago.
I don't like the.
My God!
I don't like Chicago pizza.
Amazing.
Some people love it. I'm not
like
one of
them. Rand,
yes?
I'm coming to Chicago, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, right. That's amazing. How have I never heard of this?
You've never heard of Chicago pizza before?
It's like a pie.
It is. It's a pizza pie.
It's a pizza pie. That's amazing.
Yeah. Stick Figure, he wants to know, would you like PlayStation Network and Xbox Live to be combined? No, I don't. I wouldn't like to see that. Utalius wants to know, how much would you and Jez be willing to spend if the next console release was really powerful? Yeah, there is a limit I'd probably spend, for sure. I think my limit is probably... Well, also, like, I'm planning on buying the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, whatever they call it, 5. I'm expecting both to be $500. So that's $1,000 I'll be spending in November on, video game stuff. Because I'm not cool like Jez. I'm not important like Jez. Jez will get an Xbox 5 sent to him for a review with like every game. Poor Rand. I'm not gonna. I'm not going.
Just sell one of your YouTube Ferraris and get.
Yeah, one of my YouTube Ferraris. I'll have to pay for it.
Dude,
So
I've seen how much money YouTubers make. I've seen
what, like
PewDiePie's
PewDiePie in them? Yeah, I'm not PewDiePie or anybody. Like,
how many how much money have you got stuffed into that mattress, Ryan? How much money? Like, how many Ferraris do you have in that
I
huge
have 3 Ferraris.
underground garage?
But anyways, so yeah, I'd be willing to. So, but however, if the price, the most, it would really like if the Xbox Scarlet was, say, for instance, $800. I would really struggle hard with buying it. And if I did buy it, I wouldn't buy the PlayStation 5. If it was $700, I'd be like, ugh, I don't know. Like maybe, but then I probably wouldn't get the PlayStation 5. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sajibot's giving you enough money to just buy them right now.
well, here's the thing. It's like, I know. So, like, $800 for the Xbox Scarlet, I probably would buy it just because I would know I would get like $800 out of it for the next 6 or 7 years. You know, since how much I play on it. But if the PlayStation 5 was also $800, no chance in hell. I don't care how good Last of Us 2 is. I'm not spending $800 on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
the thing is, man, for me, ray tracing is such a huge leap. I would like be totally happy to spend $600 if the consoles are like $600, $700. I would probably do it, but I am very much in a sort of financially healthy place right now. Like before I had this job, I probably wouldn't have even got the X. Like when I used to be on a minimum wage income, right? I used to be an IT technician for high school. I don't think I would have picked up an X on day one. I would have probably shopped around for a deal when I was on that minimum wage. But ray tracing is like, it's such a leap in visual quality that's the part of the equation that I'm excited for. And if it's like as good as it can be with RTX graphics cards, it's gonna be pretty sweet.
I'd say for both, if they both were 600, I'd get both. But if one of them starts going higher than that, I would say probably I'd just get one. But my target right now is I think both the PlayStation 5 and Scarlet will be 500, and I will get them both day one. So that's $1,000. But yeah, I don't know. Like $800 is probably where I'm like, no, I'm definitely not getting Xbox Scarlet, but I probably would at 700. And shout out to Shazzy He says, "Don't even sweat it, Rand. I got you." Smiley face. I well, thanks. I appreciate that. And Carlos Krepson says, "Will Rockstar ever make anything else besides Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto, or have they fallen victim to online microtransactions?" That is a good question. Grand Theft Auto 5 is like the internally most popular game. You look on like MPDs, it's always in the top. It's always one of the most played games. They're probably making hands over fist, like money wise on that. Red Dead sold well incredibly, but I guess the online isn't that popular. So are they going to make anything else other than those two games, Jez? There are rumors that they're working on a Bully 2. Or is Rockstar just basically a Grand Theft Auto Red Dead Redemption factory at this point?
I would love to see smaller games come out of Rockstar because those dudes and dudettes are so talented at what they do, but they tend to go for these like grand, ridiculously huge experiences. What if they just made like a few smaller games, like a Manhunt? Give us a new Manhunt, or give us a new Max Payne. They own the bloody IP, and Max Payne 3 wasn't that bad. Like, I'd love to see what their take on would if they took on the feedback from Max Payne 3. I'd love to see what they do with the Max Payne 4.
Yeah.
So I wish they'd make smaller games, but that ain't where the money is now. It's like I read a great article actually today in GameIndustry.biz with the CEO of EA, where they were talking about the constraints they have trying to make single player games financially viable. Because for Sony, when they make a single player narrative experience, it's financially viable for them because it's driving hardware sales. But for EA, they've become so expensive to make that they can't make the money back unless they ram it up with microtransactions. Like in their view, I mean, I haven't seen their balance sheet. Maybe they could like make it more profitable by giving their execs fewer bonuses and stuff like that. But that's their logic and their reasoning is that they haven't got hardware to sell, so it's not profitable for them.
Yeah.
So for Rockstar 2, they don't have hardware to sell. So in their view, it's not as profitable for us to make a game that doesn't have some kind of either high engagement potential, which is like why they're working to try and make Red Dead Redemption online mode viable, and that's why the microtransactions in that mode are so aggressive and awful.
Yeah.
So
Dark Cloud says,
I love Max Payne 3.
Dark Cloud says, "Hey Rand, will PSVR 2 help the PlayStation 5?" I don't think it'll hurt it. And maybe if VR does catch on, considering PlayStation 5 does native VR with games made by Sony themselves, where Microsoft has kind of shunned VR. I mean, you remember when Phil said there'd be VR in the X, Jez? Because I do. Remember when X was supposed to do high fidelity VR?
Yep, I do. And now I asked Microsoft about VR at E3, and they still said that it's only going to live on PC. So they don't care about VR.
They don't care about VR. It can't hurt Sony unless Sony decides they want to bundle the PlayStation 5 with PSVR 2, driving up the price, which, yeah, that would hurt, but no. I think would really nothing but help, because there are going to be dedicated VR people who are going to want to get the PlayStation 5 for PSVR 2 if it's really improved. So I think it only really helps, honestly.
This is the thing that bugs me about Microsoft's strategy right now, is that like they're buying up lots of studios to try and hit all of those niches. They're bringing back Flight Simulator for that niche. They're bringing back Age of Empires for that niche, but they don't want to invest in VR for that niche. And we still haven't seen a new Killer Instinct. Do we not care about the fighting game niche? Like, it feels arbitrary the way they're choosing what gamers to serve, you know? And like VR is emerging tech, and it's not for everyone. Like, it makes me feel ill. Most VR games, like Minecraft VR. Has anyone here tried Minecraft VR? Like, that game is so motion sickness inducing because like you're underground, it's claustrophobic, it's really bad for like the motion sickness stuff. And because there aren't a lot of people playing it, they don't really bother working on it. So it's like I first played it like a year ago, and I played it again recently, and it's still vomit inducing.
Yeah.
And it's like ABACAB72 says they're still licking their wounds from Kinect. I think that's true as well. Like, Microsoft seems to like, they seem to get cold feet. And like, Rand, you were saying how like they should have, you would have liked to have seen a Fable tease at E3, and maybe they don't tease Fable because they've still got cold feet from Scalebound and stuff like that. It does feel like they do get like cold feet after having like a big fail. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this kind of goes into the question that my name Jeff says. Do you think it's smart for Microsoft to save their ammo for 2020, which is something we could have went into during the conference segment, but we might as well just answer it here. Clearly, and I saw an interview with Phil afterwards where he was talking about how they were saving stuff for 2020. I made a video saying that 2020 is more important than 2019 because, quite simply, this was just an off year for everybody at E3. Sony didn't show up, right? But they're going to be back, presumably, for E3 next year because they're going to have a PlayStation 5 to sell you. And the reason they weren't there, by their own words, was because they didn't have anything really new to show, and they didn't want to do a show with just updates to games they've been talking about for 3 years, like Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, and Death Stranding. So they were like, you know what, we're not going to go. But next year, with the PlayStation 5 coming, they'll be able to finally talk about their PlayStation 5 games, the reasons to buy a PlayStation 5, so you can, I mean, don't put it past Sony. Like, I can easily see them, here's a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 trailer, here's a God of War 2 trailer, maybe here's a Spider-Man trailer, here's, whatever, the rumors about a new SOCOM or whatever. Like, Sony's going to have games that their studios are working on and been working on for a while for reasons to buy a PlayStation 5. And Microsoft, is the same. They're going to want people to buy the Scarlet, and they're sitting on all these games, like they said. So yeah, 2020 is. I've made the video. I've said it then. I'll say it again. 2020 is more important. I'm not saying you need to wait for E3 because I hate that stupid ass meme. But I think clearly Microsoft thinks that 2020 is more important. It's the battleground. It's PlayStation 5 versus Xbox 2. You tease Fable this year, you can't tease Fable next year. Maybe Initiative's in a place where they can tease their game next year. What do you think, Jez? Was it smart to save their am? I mean, now you have people saying that, here's the thing. I didn't like this conference at all. Everybody here listening knows I didn't like it. But because the conference was bad, doesn't suddenly I think Xbox is,
the thing is
done for. It's a single conference. In the long run, it means nothing.
Yeah, in the long run, it does mean nothing because, yeah, they want to make a good show for their biggest influencers and their hardcore, their hardcore fans and stuff like that. But at the same time, these shows are watched by Wall Street, financial analysts, the people who, scream, buy Microsoft, stuff like that. Like, I had so many financial analysts come up and ask me questions at E3 this year, which was weird. And people saying, like, where do you think Microsoft's going to go with this? Where do you think Microsoft's going to go with that? Stuff like that. And, like, when you said, like, if they tease Fable this year, they can't tease it next year, you hit the nail on the head. Like, when Sony isn't there, they don't have to compete as hard. So, like, I feel like they did try to make a good show of it. But I think, like, and like you, I hate the meme. Wait till next year.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
like,
look,
Sony created the situation where they have to wait till next year because Sony wasn't there. Sony didn't show up. Microsoft could have not shown up either.
Yeah, well, which Microsoft showed up. Sony didn't. Sony gets an F. Failing to show up. Xbox gets like a C+ or something.
I see people out here praising Sony for not showing up, like it was some sort of great thing they did. But no, like, it's bullshit. You don't show up for your fans. You don't bother making a show. Like, I don't rate that. I think that's lame.
Think about it like this. Also, there's Sony is supposedly also building that rumored new studio that's going to work on Uncharted games. So I'm like, they could come like firing the big guns at E3 2020 and being like, here's Uncharted 5 from their new studio. Here's a God of War trailer teaser that they could end with. Here's Horizon Zero Dawn 2 that's launching. Here's all these great games, and Xbox needs stuff to counter that with. So yeah, 2020 is more important. And but you know what? I think the show's gone on long enough. We're approaching 3 hours, which is getting really close. But that's what happens when you do E3 and you can't do an E3 show after E3 and you got to wait a week. So you got to talk about all this stuff on this show.
How long was our Iron Lords podcast? That was pretty long.
That was 3 hours.
Yeah.
So we appreciate everybody tuning into the show. We had like 550 people. I appreciate it. All the support in chat by everybody. I saw Jez dropping the banhammer on a lot of people. But we appreciate everyone being here. And if you're listening to this later, I hope you really enjoy the show on Google Play or iTunes. Link is always in the description, in the the description box on the video. You can follow Jez on Twitter there. And yeah, I guess we will be back next week, either Wednesday or Thursday.
Yep.
And we will see everybody later. Have a good one, guys.
Take care, everybody.